Chapter 3467. The second form of Split the Heavens. And Puta himself was dumbfounded, not knowing what was going on. It had clearly been a flawless plan, but it had suddenly taken an incomprehensible turn. 5 World King experts wielding divine weapons of the netherworld that had death chi whirling around them attacked Puta and Liaobansong, sending them stumbling back. Boom. In the distance, Long Chen and the 9 underworld Luocha once more clashed. Long Chen no longer had any misgivings. There was nothing he needed to hold back now. After this attack, a flame lotus appeared in his left hand. World Extermination Flame Lotus. The flame lotus flew at the 9 underworld Luocha. In return, the Luocha image behind her clasped its hands together, and they formed a giant shield in front of her. Luocha guard. The 9 underworld Luocha shouted, and countless runes appeared on the Luocha's hands, forming a layer around her. Boom. The World Extermination Flame Lotus smashed into the clasped hands. Flames and runes weaved together and exploded at the same time. Split the heavens too. Long Chen shouted, unleashing another heavenly saber at her. The 9 underworld Luocha was shocked. Only now did she realize that Long Chen's flame lotus had been nothing more than something to draw her vision. It concealed the true killing blow. Long Chen's techniques came too quickly. Now, it was already too late for her to unleash the Luocha soul extermination stab, so she clenched her teeth. The spots on her face suddenly quivered and seemed to come to life. Blood soul sacrifice, Luocha possession. Following that, her flesh withered in an instant. She was like a skeleton covered in a layer of skin now. But the Luocha manifestation behind her instantly solidified as if it now possessed a body of flesh and blood. She merged into her manifestation, transforming into the Luocha. She had completely finished the Luocha possession. The current her had multiplied in power, and countless runes flowed within her body. Boom. When Long Chen's saber fell, the 9 underworld Luocha received his attack with her dagger. The 2 divine weapons struck each other, and a half-sphere of energy exploded out of both of them. 2 opposing forces crashed against each other. Long Chen felt like a sea was flipping inside of him, so he coughed up a mouthful of blood. In the Luocha possession, she actually possessed the power of time. Because of it, Long Chen was injured. However, the 9 underworld Luocha didn't fare better. Long Chen had unleashed a full power attack, while she had been forced to make a hasty defense. Now, blood was pouring out of her 7 orifices. Damnable bastard, I am from the great Luocha race. You dare to injure me? I will tear your corpse into 10,000 pieces. The 9 underworld Luocha shrieked. As if possessed by a ghoul, she charged at Long Chen. A little Luocha race dares to call itself great? Today, I will beat you into a paste. Long Chen wiped the blood off of his mouth. His injuries instantly healed. With the wood foundation divine trees, he wasn't afraid of being injured. Split the heavens too. Long Chen once more raised his saber, unleashing his simplest, most direct attack. He had no need for flashy techniques. This was a clash of power, of who was stronger. Luocha soul extermination stab. The 9 underworld Luocha roared. Both of them unleashed their strongest attacks again. The 9 underworld Luocha's eyes were red. Long Chen wanted a direct clash, and she also wanted a direct clash. Both of them had the utmost confidence in their power. One was a terrifying 9-star heir, while the other was a heavenly genius of the 9 underworld hall that had received the inheritance of the Luocha race. They both believed that they were the strongest. Boom, boom, boom. Everyone was amazed and horrified to see Long Chen and the 9 underworld Luocha clash 3 times with their strongest attacks. They used their ultimate moves as if they were free. Every attack caused the stars to quiver and the world to shake. It was truly a heaven-shaking battle. Seeing this, the disciples inside the academy all felt their blood heating up. Long Chen was their unbeatable god. His divine power seemed boundless, and his confidence and arrogance made them feel reverent. After 3 all-out clashes, Long Chen's arm was numb. He didn't know how many times his internal organs had been destroyed and healed, but he still wasn't afraid. Instead, his battle intent continued to pour out of him. Facing a powerful opponent only made him feel more excited. As for the 9 underworld Luocha, she was also injured. More blood was pouring out of her 7 orifices. Furthermore, this blood was black. Cracks had even appeared on her forehead. Split the heavens. Long Chen once more raised his saber, causing the 9 underworld Luocha's expression to change. Long Chen's power seemed limitless. He was practically a monster. On the other hand, her Luocha possession had already reached its limit. As her cultivation base wasn't high enough, she was still unable to fully merge with her Luocha manifestation. She could only sacrifice her flesh to temporarily merge with it. However, this state could not be maintained for long. Once time was up, she wouldn't even be able to keep up her manifestation. If her manifestation was broken, her sacrificed flesh would never return, and that would be a fatal blow to her. So your life is tough. Once I finish merging with the Luocha, I will come take your life. The 9 underworld Luocha snorted and suddenly formed hand seals. However, just then, Long Chen appeared in front of her and swung his saber, cutting off her hands. I knew that you wouldn't be able to beat me. You want to run? Leave your life behind first, sneered Long Chen. A huge saber image had appeared just then, but now he was suddenly attacking normally, with such speed that it practically toppled people's understanding. It had to be known that normally, once an ultimate attack was brewing, it couldn't be pulled back. That would essentially be attacking themselves with their power. So, at this moment, Long Chen had completely gone against the common sense of the martial Dao. In truth, after 3 all-out attacks, he could clearly sense that she had reached her limit. That was why Long Chen had only acted out the 4th attack to scare her. Just as Long Chen expected, the 9 underworld Luocha didn't dare to fight him again. She was forming hand seals to flee, and she needed to gather her mental energy to escape from the lock of his saber. As a result of the distraction, she hadn't expected Long Chen to switch techniques and cut off her hands. Long Chen originally wanted to cut off her head, but such an attack would definitely be instantly sensed by her and might lead to failure. Thus, to be safe, he first cut off her hands, making it so that she couldn't form hand seals temporarily. Boom. After cutting off her hands, his saber struck like lightning, piercing toward her head. A divine shield appeared before her. The 9 underworld Luocha was terrified. The Luocha manifestation behind her had vanished, condensing into a fist-sized shield in front of her head. Long Chen's saber quivered and that shield began to crack. Having lost her hands, the 9 underworld Luocha could only use her will to control her power. She was unable to concentrate all her energy. Feeling terrified, she cried out, "Hall Master, save me." Boom. That shield finally broke apart. Long Chen's saber pierced through it and her head. However, when he stabbed her head, he suddenly sensed something wrong. This wasn't the feeling of stabbing flesh. A substitution art? Long Chen was startled. He didn't have time to pull back his saber. So, a lightning spear appeared in his left hand, and he stabbed it downward to his left. Boom. As a result, the void collapsed and the 9 underworld Luocha's figure reappeared. However, half her body was gone, and she let out a miserable shriek. Having lost the protection of her Luocha manifestation, she appeared incredibly weak. Die! Long Chen then swung that puppet that looked identical to the 9 underworld Luocha off of his saber and swung his saber at her. Just then, a blood-colored dagger pierced through the air. A chilling killing intent made Long Chen's back feel icy cold. Chapter 3468 World King Avatar Liao Bensong. When that attack appeared, Liao Bensong's figure instantly appeared in Long Chen's mind. Those experts of the netherworld were unable to stop him from coming to save the 9 underworld Luocha. His attack completely sealed any paths of retreat for Long Chen, so Long Chen could only receive it directly. If Long Chen wanted his life, he had to let off the 9 underworld Luocha. Long Chen snorted coldly. Ignoring Liao Bekong, he swung his saber at the 9 underworld Luocha. That appearance of his was as though even if he died, he would definitely drag her along with him. Seeing this, Liao Bensong was shocked and enraged. He hadn't expected Long Chen to be so crazy as to sacrifice his own life to kill the 9 underworld Luocha. It had to be known that the 9 underworld Luocha's potential was limitless. Lord Brahma had set his sights on having her as the future Hallmaster, so she could not be allowed to die. 9 underworld duplicate. In his panic, Liao Bensong suddenly split his body in two. One continued to attack Long Chen, while the other appeared in front of the 9 underworld Luocha. I knew it. Your true body couldn't possibly come here. You are nothing more than an avatar. Long Chen instantly relaxed when he saw Liao Bensong split his body. This avatar was condensed from faith energy. Although it was stronger than a divine clone, it was a far cry from the true body. Then I won't hold back. All of you can leave your lives behind today. Long Chen raised his head and laughed. Boom. A black lightning sword suddenly appeared in front of Liao Bensong, blocking his dagger. A maiden with black hair covered in lightning manifested. Lei Linger was wearing a black dress, and runes flickered in her black eyes. A wild aura came from her along with a wild destructive power. What? Even as the Hallmaster, Liao Bensong was shocked. Even with all his experience, he was unable to believe that there was someone capable of controlling the power of heavenly tribulation. At the same time, Long Chen's saber slashed down on Liao Bensong's other avatar. This avatar was blown back but still managed to receive Long Chen's attack. However, just as Liao Bensong relaxed, a flame spear pierced through the 9 underworld Luocha's body. Huolinger had also attacked. She then murmured something, and flames enveloped herself and the 9 underworld Luocha. Ah! The 9 underworld Luocha screamed in pain. Huolinger was using the fire of her soul to burn her enemy's soul. As the 9 underworld Luocha's hands were stained with the blood of countless 9-star heirs, Long Chen didn't want to kill her just like that. He wanted to burn her soul for eternity, letting her die only in endless pain. At the same time, he would like to investigate some of the 9 underworld hall's secrets through her soul. Long Chen, you are courting death. Liao Bensong was incensed. He hadn't expected Long Chen to have such terrifying trump cards. His 2 avatars moved, trying to merge back together. But Long Chen didn't give him a chance. He and Lei Linger both blocked one, not letting Liao Bensong get close to the 9 underworld Luocha. Long Chen knew that Liao Bensong was very powerful. Otherwise, it would have been impossible for him to escape under the attacks of 5 world kings. However, now that his avatar had split in 2, his power was also halved. As long as Long Chen didn't let his avatars recombine, he was unable to threaten Long Chen. Huolinger was chanting the Nirvana scripture. That was something that Long Chen had recently transmitted to her. Long Chen had tried to transmit it to her in the past, but for some reason she was unable to use the scripture. It was only after he had advanced to the Divine Lord realm that Huolinger managed to control the Nirvana scripture. However, she was only able to use the first 2 volumes. As for the 3rd and 4th volumes, it was unknown if it was because her power wasn't high enough, but she was unable to chant them. Despite that, she was an innate flame spirit. When she chanted the scripture, endless flame energy was summoned. She was a goddess of 10,000 flames at this moment. Ah! As she was roasted by the flames, the 9 underworld Luocha continued to scream. She was bound by flame chains, and it felt like her soul was being torn apart. She couldn't stop screaming. At this moment, Imputa had also summoned his full power. Despite his large body, he was as agile as a monkey. Even while fighting 5 world kings, he was forcing them back repeatedly and moving toward Liao Bensong. Although he didn't like Liao Bensong, he also knew that the 9 underworld Luocha couldn't be allowed to die. He was also doing his best to help save her. On the other battlefield, it was originally by Zhantong chasing Jia Luo, but now Jia Luo was the one trying to rush over here and being blocked by Zhantong. Due to Long Chen's battle with the 9 underworld Luocha, the core of the battlefield had shifted. The Academy's experts had originally been blocking enemies from all sides. But now that the Netherworld's army descended, they no longer needed to. As a result, all the Battle God Palace's experts charged at Jia Luo. Jia Luo was now being attacked by Zhantong, by Shirshir, by Xiaola, by Xiaola's mother, and by Shirshir's mother. By Zhantong's face was pale. He had already lost his ghost Dao possession, but he still didn't want to retreat. Jia Luo was at full power now. The power that he had been conserving was now fully unleashed. It was not inferior to Bai Zhantong in his ghost Dao possession. However, with Bai Shishir present, her golden sword repeatedly launched sharp attacks. She became the main force. Adding on the cooperation from her family, especially Bai Xiaola's mother with her 3 flower pupils interfering with Jia Luo's attacks and setting Bai Shishir up perfectly, Jia Luo almost had his head cut off several times by Bai Shishir. Surrounded by this family, Jia Luo was unable to fight effectively. He was so furious that he cursed Bai Zhantong for using numbers to bully him. Bai Zhantong also cursed him, calling him trash, demanding why he was so fine with running away the entire time before. Just before, Jia Luo had been repeatedly running from him, making him unable to effectively unleash his power. Now that the tables had turned, it was Jia Luo who was unable to effectively unleash his power. Bai Zhantong was very pleased. Jia Luo, you bastard, you injured my mom. You made my grandpa suffer. I will wring off your head and place it here so I can feed you crap every single day. Bai Xiaola clenched his teeth and rapidly formed hand seals. Now, his spatial energy was crazily unleashed. He was constantly interfering with Jia Luo's attacks. It was only after Bai Xiaola had met Long Chen and activated the 3 flower pupils, giving him the ability to cultivate on his own, that his mother told him about this matter. She only told Bai Xiaola so that he wouldn't hate his father. It had to be known that Bai Zhantong also felt great pain over it. When Bai Xiaola learned that it was Jia Luo that had caused everything, he wanted to tear Jia Luo apart with his teeth while the latter was still alive. In this life, it was his first time hating someone like this. Xiaola, focus. Bai Xiaola's mother suddenly cried out. In Bai Xiaola's anger, the tempo of his techniques accelerated to the point that a gap gradually appeared in everyone else's cooperation. Jia Luo shot through an opening resulting from that, receiving Bai Shishir's attack with his sword and shooting away like a bolt of lightning away from their enclosure. Shit! Bai Zhantong's expression changed. Jia Luo was flying straight at Long Chen. And Puta had finally reached him as well. Long Chen was instantly surrounded by 3 powerful experts. Boss, watch out. Only now did Bai Xiaola realize what kind of calamity he had caused. Chapter 3469 Lightning Radiance destroys the world. Long Chen narrowed his eyes. Seeing Jia Luo coming toward him, he snorted. Lord Brahma's disciple? Let's see just how much skill you have. Long Chen had just exchanged blows with Liao Bensong when he extended his hand and a lightning sphere appeared in it. Furthermore, at this moment, Lei Linger vanished. World Extermination Lightning Radiance. Boom. Long Chen then forced Liao Bensong back with his saber and smashed this lightning sphere into the latter's body. As a result, Liao Bensong's avatar crumbled, and a ripple of lightning tore through the void. Lei Linger reappeared with a lightning sword, attacking the other Liao Bensong. The loss of one of his avatars shocked and enraged Liao Bensong. Even now, he didn't know what had happened. Only the blink of an eye had passed between Long Chen circulating his thunder force, Lei Linger vanishing, his avatar being killed, and Lei Linger reappearing. In all his years, Liao Bensong had never seen such a technique. What he didn't know was that Lei Linger was not a house pet but a companion that Long Chen could fully trust. Their minds were connected, and so their cooperation was seamless. With this move, one of Liao Bensong's avatars was killed. After the World Extermination Lightning Radiance, Lei Linger's aura fell. But she still had 80% of her combat power, and that was enough to fight Liao Bensong's other avatar. With one opponent killed, Long Chen eyed Jia Luo who was flying over. After taking a deep breath, his saber rumbled. He pointed it at the heavens and slashed it down. Split the heavens one. The saber image fell, but what no one had expected was for it to miss. It actually fell beside Jia Luo, startling people. Die! At this moment, Jia Luo's manifestation rumbled and was sucked inside his silver sword. The sword seemed to come to life, and brilliant sword light ignited the sky like a blazing star. This move is something I was preparing for Bai Zhantong. For it to be used on you, you can die in peace. Jia Luo's gaze was cold. He was turning all his anger on Long Chen, So this sword contained all his power. After missing, Long Chen once more raised his saber. Just then, the power of his previous attack was pulled back. When his saber once more pointed toward the heavens, the wind and clouds changed color. Endless power was crazily pulled toward Long Chen. As the power of Long Chen's 108,000 stars poured through 18 acupuncture points, sharp pain came from the acupuncture points. He was layering the power of his first attack on top of his second, as well as absorbing the power of heaven and earth. So, the current power of his saber had reached the limit of his body. If it was before, no matter how Long Chen tried, he would be unable to cause such an effect. That was because the amount of energy that the heavens were willing to give him was too little. However, it was different this time. He had obtained the recognition of the integral heaven star field and this place, so he was able to absorb far more energy from heaven and earth. The pain in his acupuncture points didn't disturb him though. Long Chen grew even more excited. This meant that as long as his body could endure it, he could still absorb more energy from heaven and earth. Split the heavens too. With a roar, Long Chen unleashed all the power he had stored. The first form and the second form layered on top of each other. This attack contained the will to split the heavens. It caused the world to change color and gods to shake. This saber possessed a supreme divine might. It was like a heavenly saber that would cut through all restrictions within this world. The next moment, a saber and a sword struck each other in a world-shaking collision. Two divine lights clashed, emitting 4 streaks of light in the form of a giant cross. As the earth was torn apart and the void was pierced, fragments of spacetime flew about. 4 huge holes then spread around the two of them. The 4 black holes were like 4 huge mouths trying to devour the world. The experts in the academy panicked. One of those holes was flying toward the academy. In the end, it only passed by them, but the immense power still pierced the tottering barrier, causing it to collapse. The giant black hole crazily devoured everything, and countless disciples found themselves being sucked over. If they were devoured, they would be crushed by the spatial blades. Bai Xiaola and his mother had no time to help Long Chen. They hastily used their spatial arts to drag everyone back. However, the buildings of the academy were pulled and torn by the black hole. The glorious academy was instantly turned to ruins. After that, the black hole slowly vanished as the laws of the world repaired themselves. When the pulling power faded, everything returned to calm. Big brother Long Chen. Huolinger cried out in shock. She was originally controlling the 9 underworld Luocha and had just managed to see some fragmentary images in her soul when Imputa came. Huolinger's body was then pierced by his dagger, and some strange power was injected into her, causing her to lose control of her body. At the next moment, the 9 underworld Luocha fell into Imputa's hands. As for Long Chen, he had just exchanged blows with Jia Luo. His body was covered in frightening cracks as if he would shatter. On the other side, Jia Luo was coughing up blood. Even some of his shattered insides were spat out. Moreover, a crack had appeared on his forehead, and fresh blood poured out of it. It was as if his head was going to explode. Lord Brahma's disciple is only at this level. You can die. Long Chen shot toward Jia Luo once more. Although combining 2 saber attacks had used up almost all his energy, he was still fearless. He knew that Jia Luo was no better off. In a clash of experts, the attacker was the winner. Whoever first retreated had a higher chance of dying. Seeing Long Chen charging over so recklessly, Jia Luo's heart pounded. He could clearly sense that he had the power to kill Long Chen, but a sensation of terror shook him. He was now a bit afraid. Long Chen was like a bottomless well of trump cards. Who knew how many he had? Despite his trump card being clearly stronger, Jia Luo still felt uneasy. Imputa had saved the 9 underworld Luocha. Now, runes flowed out of his hand, and the 9 underworld Luocha vanished. It was unknown where he had sent her. After that, he shouted, "We're just 1 step away. Dig out the foundation stone and we'll have one." Hearing that, Jia Luo was revitalized. The academy's barrier was gone, and killing people was no longer important. As long as the foundation stone was excavated and the netherworld's chi was injected into it, the 7th branch academy would be gone. Leave that to me. Jia Luo laughed and spread his hands. After that, a set of golden scaled armor appeared on his body. Runes flowed on top of it, emitting a terrifying pressure. That pressure caused by Zhantong and the others' expressions to change. The aura of a divine venerate? This is the treasure armor my master bestowed on me. With the blessing of the divine venerate, even a peak world king cannot harm me. Just watch as I destroy your academy. Jia Luo laughed, and just like that, he charged toward the academy without the slightest scruple. The 5 world kings of the netherworld were the first to reach him. They all felt like they had lost face by not being able to stop Imputa. Now, their chance to win back some face had come, but before they could even get close to Jia Luo, the divine light from his armor knocked them away with such force that they coughed up blood. At that moment, everyone despaired. This was an unrivaled armor, and no one could even approach him. Was the academy truly going to be destroyed? Just as Jia Luo was laughing and reached the core of the academy, a dagger completely ignored that protective divine light and stabbed through his heart from his back. What? Imputa and Liao Bensong were completely shocked. They didn't dare to believe their eyes. Chapter 3470 Slaying Jia Luo. The dagger was pitch black and gave off no aura at all. In fact, it practically couldn't be sensed in the slightest. There wasn't sharp air or anything coming from it, but it had pierced through Jia Luo's golden armor and stabbed him through the heart. The golden armor's light was so powerful that let alone getting through it, even touching it was impossible. Even world kings were sent flying by the pressure that belonged to a divine venerate. However, in front of that black dagger, it was as if the armor had lost all its power. That dagger instantly pierced through it, and its golden light slowly faded. At the same time, Jia Luo's body darkened as if he had been cursed. His life energy rapidly withered, just like when Long Chen was stabbed by the sword tip. At that time, Long Chen had exhausted almost all of the primal chaos space's life energy just to keep himself alive. Now it was Jia Luo's turn. His cultivation base was completely sealed by this power, so he was unable to summon a single trace of energy. Everyone's jaw dropped. They looked at Long Chen, who was standing behind Jia Luo, and appeared completely apathetic. Lord Brahma's disciple is only at this level. Now, do you still doubt my words? Long Chen looked at Jia Luo indifferently as the latter's life energy rapidly dissipated. No one knew how terrifying this dagger was better than Long Chen. He didn't want to experience being stabbed by it a second time. Jia Luo also realized that his intuition back then had not been wrong. When Long Chen charged at him, Long Chen had clearly been exhausted, but Jia Luo was the one to feel like death was approaching. His intuition had told him to immediately flee, but he had actually thought that it was a misperception. Now, he realized that it was correct. Don't kill me. Jia Luo was pale and absolutely terrified. At this moment, his life was in Long Chen's hands. Seeing Jia Luo in this predicament, Liao Bensong roared, Long Chen, release Jia Luo. He is divine venerate Brahma's disciple and a descendant of the Azura race. He has the blood of the Azura race. If you kill him, the divine venerate and the Azura race will descend. All of you will die miserable deaths, idiot. And Puta's expression suddenly changed. This fellow's head really was filled with crap. He actually threatened Long Chen at such a time. As expected, after Liao Bensong said this, Long Chen thrust a hand of lightning through Jia Luo's head. The bolt of lightning pierced his head, causing his body to stiffen before slowly limply falling to the ground, the fire of his soul extinguished. With Jia Luo's cultivation base, he should have had a chance to escape with at least his Yuan spirit. But the attack that he had been struck by was no ordinary attack. The dagger had a terrifying power that also sealed the soul within the body so that when the body died, so did the soul. As for Imputa and Liao Bensong, when they saw that his Yuan spirit didn't flee, they thought that he was unwilling to abandon his physical body and simply wanted to first negotiate with Long Chen. They were unaware that it wasn't that he was unwilling but that he was unable to. Jia Luo's corpse fell to the ground. The sound wasn't loud, but on this silent battlefield, it shook people's hearts like thunder. A terrifying genius that had made his name famous countless years ago, a divine venerate's disciple, a figure with countless honors to his name, a terrifying existence countless people looked up to, had died just like this. Lord Brahma? The Azura race? We'll all die miserably? Who cares? Dead is dead. From the moment I set foot into the cultivation world, my life was no longer what was important. What matters is that if I am to live, I must live with dignity. If I cannot do that, then I would rather choose to die in a brilliant fire. You might not know this, but I, Long Chen, do not submit to any threats. Since you want my life, you must be prepared to endure my wrath. Long Chen slowly pulled out the dagger and turned toward Imputa and Liao Bensong. Their expressions were twisted with fury. Long Chen. Liao Bensong let out a furious roar, and even his hair stood on end. He was going crazy with rage. Jia Luo was Lord Brahma's disciple, so his status was special. For him to die, they had truly provoked a huge calamity. Liao Bensong's power fully erupted. With a single step, he instantly appeared in front of Long Chen. As a result, he had just moved when everyone else, who had long since stored up power, attacked at the same time. Bai Zhantang, Bai Shishir, the Battle God Palace's experts, as well as the 5 world kings from the Netherworld all attacked at once. With so many experts striking him at the same time, Liao Bensong didn't even have a chance to do anything before his avatar was directly killed. After killing Liao Bensong, everyone turned to Imputa, only to find that he had long since vanished. No need to search. That crafty fellow merely used that idiot Liao Bensong. Imputa ran after using him to draw attention. Long Chen waved his hand, indicating to them not to search. Jia Luo was dead, the 9 underworld Luocha was half dead after being tormented, Liao Bensong's avatar was destroyed, and countless devil experts, deep-sea fiend devils, and devil-eye water lilies had been exterminated. Although Imputa had fled, it was still a victory for Long Chen. Dean, the invasion of the Nether Chi is starting to corrode the foundation stone, reminded Heaven Master Yun Yang nervously. When the barrier was broken, the foundation stone was injured. In its weakest state, it was easy for the Nether Chi to infect it. If the foundation stone was infected with too much of that Nether Chi, it would be destroyed. Before Long Chen could say anything, the World King from the Netherworld said, "Master Long Chen, it is our fault for being trash. We weren't able to help. If the Heavenly King learns of this, he sighed with shame. I beg Master Long Chen to forgive us." He was already waving for his people to return to the Netherworld, gathering their corpses as well for fear of those corpses infecting the immortal spiritual chi here. How can you say that? If it wasn't for you coming, my High Firmament Academy would have taken horrendous losses. You've helped me out immensely. I won't say any courteous words. I will remember this favor, and when we have a chance in the future, let us drink and chat. Long Chen cupped his fists toward him. Those world kings were delighted by his words. They waved goodbye and left the immortal world. After that, the spatial channel quickly closed. Imputa's move this time was truly sinister. This channel could only be repaired from the Netherworld. Fortunately, it was the Heavenly King's people who came, or the 7th Branch Academy would have been destroyed. Oh, where is Jia Luo's corpse? Bai Xiaola suddenly cried out. Only then did everyone notice that Jia Luo's corpse was gone. What? You hate him so much that you want to defile even his corpse? Long Chen laughed, eliciting smiles from the others. Just before Imputa left, he took Jia Luo's corpse. Although Bai Xiaola hated Jia Luo, now that the latter was dead, he really wasn't interested in playing with his corpse. First, repair the foundation stone and the transportation formation. We need to beg for aid from the main academy. We'll need to continue rebuilding the 7th Branch Academy. Looking at the wreckage around him, Long Chen's heart was dripping blood. Send a message to Zheng Wenlong. This time, I'm going to create the strongest branch academy. Favorite. Chapter 3471 The Man in the Shadows. Imputa, fuck your mother. Within a palace, Liao Bensong was furiously roaring at Imputa. You rat bastard, you tricked me into charging forward while you hid like a little turtle. I will not let you off this time. Imputa tossed Jia Luo's corpse to the ground. He coldly asked, when did I make you charge forward? Fuck, you refuse to admit it? You were the one who clearly said to kill Long Chen at the end. Cursed Liao Bensong, practically jumping with fury. I was saying that killing Long Chen is impossible, so we should run. You didn't let me finish talking before you charged out. Who can you blame for that? Enputa snorted coldly. Liao Bensong almost coughed up blood. Enputa had clearly conned him at the end, costing him his avatars while Enputa escaped safe and sound. It had to be known that his avatars were condensed out of a huge amount of faith energy. They contained all the faith energy concentrated over millions of years from 2 of his divine statues. In order to increase the power of their avatar, they had each condensed 2 and sent them to the vile dragon domain. After that, both of his avatars were slain, while Enputa still had his 2 avatars intact. Thinking carefully, other than some fallen followers, Enputa hadn't suffered any losses this time. As for himself, he hadn't just lost 2 avatars. The rank 1 Heaven Fiend, the 9 Underworld Luocha, had almost died today. His fury soared just thinking about it. Don't talk about useless things. Jia Luo is dead, and there's definitely no way to cover this up. We must inform the Divine Venerate, said Enputa, looking at Jia Luo's corpse gravely. What are you so afraid of? The Divine Venerate has 3,000 disciples, and Jia Luo is just one of them. Moreover, the Divine Venerate is still in seclusion and is at a critical juncture. We cannot disturb him. We can only temporarily keep this matter to ourselves, said Liao Bensong coldly. Alright, I recorded you saying that with a photographic jade. Enputa nodded. Boom. Liao Bensong didn't hold back and unleashed a kick at Enputa. Enputa had once more conned him. If Lord Brahma did ask about this in the future, Enputa would push all the blame onto him. Enputa seemed to have long since expected Liao Bensong's reaction and easily dodged his attack. He coldly said, "You stupid idiot, this seamless plan was ruined because of your foolish interference. You refuse to accept responsibility? Fuck your mother, it was clearly your plan that was trash. If you had launched the second attack on the barrier, it definitely would have broken. But you just had to act smart and open a portal to the netherworld. But you ended up drawing the wolves in, resulting in failure," roared Liao Bensong. "You're really stupid. If you wanted to save the 9 Underworld Luocha, you had so many methods, but you just had to pick the most foolish one. If you hadn't split your avatars, resulting in your power dropping, we also wouldn't have been defeated. If you had power like me, then with myself, you and Jia Luo joining forces, who could stop us? As long as the foundation stone was exposed and nether chi was injected into it, it would only take a few breaths' time for it to rot. If it weren't for you, the plan wouldn't have failed and Jia Luo wouldn't have died. At that time, you even threatened Long Chen. Do you know just how stupid you are? I haven't bothered to quibble with you for so many years, not because I'm afraid of you, but because I don't want to waste my time arguing with a pig. And NBSP, starting today, my Blood Kill Hall has nothing to do with your 9 Underworld Hall. Our cooperation started because of Jia Luo, and it ends with Jia Luo. Let me tell you just one last thing. Fuck your mother, you stupid pig." Even the calm Enputa grew angrier and angrier as he talked until he directly broke out into curses. Although Enputa knew how to endure, it didn't matter how high his cultivation base was, his endurance still had a limit. He still exploded in the end. "I'll kill you!" Liao Bensong roared and divine light ignited around him. As a result, the palace they were in exploded, and huge flames spurted into the clouds. "Idiot, do you think I'm afraid of you? I just can't be bothered with you. You caused Jia Luo's death, so just wait to endure the Divine Venerate's wrath. I'm not playing with you anymore." Enputa then left with Jia Luo's corpse. Enputa! Liao Bensong, a grand and mighty world king, actually coughed up blood from anger. Activate the Luocha Divine Pool. After venting his anger, Liao Bensong gradually calmed down. He shouted into the air as he started to feel a sense of danger. Jia Luo had died, while Enputa was a treacherous schemer who would push the blame onto him. If he couldn't kill Long Chen, he would be unable to give an explanation to Lord Brahma. At this moment, the 9 Underworld Luocha was lying in a blood-colored pool. There were countless ancient statues surrounding the pool, and fresh blood was flowing out of their mouths, slowly dripping into the blood pool. The entire scene was frighteningly dark. My true body is unable to cross heavens, and an avatar's power is limited. I can only place my hopes on you. 9 Underworld Luocha. When you fully merge with the Luocha essence blood, you will be able to summon the full Luocha possession. And Puta, you despicable little person, just wait. Sooner or later, I will have the 9 Underworld Luocha kill you. Liao Bensong muttered to himself as he stared at the 9 Underworld Luocha lying in the blood pool. And Puta was within his own divine palace, his expression gloomy. That idiotic donkey. He never accomplishes anything and only ruins my affairs. I really want to kill him. Master, who could make you so angry? Apprentice is very shocked. A figure silently walked out of a shadow in the corner of the room. It was a fair-faced man whose voice was soft and reserved. The curious thing was that his eyes were simply black. They were like a bottomless pool. Just looking at him made people shiver. Even the way he walked was strange. It was like he had no pattern at all. As he walked, his body was changing like a shadow or reflection. And Puta's fury evaporated when he saw this young and soft man. He smiled. The 7th heaven stage? Not bad. You have suppressed your realm very well. Good child, with you present, I feel much more at ease. Master, who are you angry with? Asked that man. Of course it's that giant idiot Liao Bensong. I almost died of anger because of him. How can that fellow be called an assassin? That's practically an insult to us. Moreover, he ruined everything this time. He's definitely the dumbest person I've encountered in this life. I don't even understand why the divine venerate gave him such an important position, said Imputa irritably. Why doesn't Disciple go out to help settle your worries? I will eliminate that Long Chen. And NBSP, no, you still can't be exposed. Your target is the Shadow Sect, not Long Chen. Let the 9 Underworld Luocha deal with Long Chen. That idiot, he'll definitely personally help her recover. He's probably helping her merge with the Luocha blood so that she can summon the full Luocha possession. He will deal with Long Chen and the Academy, but you have a more important mission. Some news has recently leaked about a terrifying figure emerging from the Shadow Sect, and they are viewed very highly by Yi Wusheng. They might be your strongest opponent in the future, said Imputa solemnly. What is their name? Dong Mingyu. Chapter 3472. Preparing to leave. It didn't matter what kind of storm came, the sun would always rise the next day. That warm and peaceful light seemed to be the greatest medicine for everyone. Sunlight was called the blessing of the heavens. It was a selfless gift. As long as you wanted it, you could have it. Long Chen lay on a barren hill. Ignoring the dust on the ground, he languidly soaked in the sun. Long Chen, you really are the same as on the martial heaven continent. Fortunately, the immortal world is big enough, otherwise, there might not be enough for you to play with. Zheng Wenlong sat down beside Long Chen, sighing emotionally. He felt like the celebration of the 7th Branch Academy's reconstruction had just happened yesterday. So when he saw the wreckage, he almost didn't dare to believe his eyes. Life exists in playing around. If I didn't play around, it would be a waste of life. It's just like your business. Aren't you playing around with making money? But this time, don't worry, I have as much money and treasures as you need. You just need to help me gather everything. Long Chen still had his eyes closed and was enjoying the sun. The crisis at the 7th Branch Academy had been settled. The Devil Sea had calmed, the passage to the Devil World was gone, and the gate to the Undying World was also closed. The Heavenly Swell domain had returned to its normal appearance. It was now a clear day after the storm. Although rebuilding the 7th Branch Academy would take quite a bit of manpower and materials, Long Chen wasn't lacking money. Alright, then let's continue playing around. I really must thank you. Quite a few powers inside the Integral Heaven Star Field have reached out to us to purchase vast quantities of medicinal pills. Furthermore, all that business is counted as mine. My authority is also rising within the Huayun Trading Company. You don't need to worry about the Academy's reconstruction, said Zheng Wenlong. Long Chen nodded. After a moment's thought, he handed Zheng Wenlong all the Wood Foundation divine fruit. Zheng Wenlong jumped in shock. These Wood Foundation divine fruit went from the 2nd generation all the way to the 9th generation. There was no way to calculate their value. With this, Zheng Wenlong also knew where the problem lay. He was moved. Long Chen had essentially shared a heaven-shaking secret with him by giving him this fruit. Zheng Wenlong put the fruit away and immediately set off. Once he was gone, Long Chen continued to lie on the ground. He grew lazier and lazier as he basked in the sunlight until he actually fell asleep. Suddenly, Long Chen smiled. He didn't open his eyes, but he could smell a nice fragrance. He already knew who had come. It's good for people to soak in some sunlight. Are you afraid of tanning? Long Chen opened one eye and saw Bai Shishir sitting beside him under a paper parasol. Today's Bai Shishir was wearing a rare white dress. She looked like a hibiscus just breaking out of the water, holy and sacred. There was a natural beauty within that simplicity. You're already dark enough. Whether or not you tan, it makes no difference. I just don't like the sunlight. Bai Shishir took out an elegant beast hide pad for herself to sit on. She didn't just lay on the dirty ground like Long Chen. Sunlight is the most selfless thing. She is never stingy with her warmth. However, no matter how bright the sunlight is, it cannot shine on the shadows in the dark. Sometimes we must be the ones to change our angle and allow the sunlight to enter. Long Chen suddenly felt a sharp pain in his waist. Are you cursing me for having a dark inside? Bai Shishir glared at him. What? Can you be a bit reasonable? I was talking about us. It's not like I directly pointed at you, said Long Chen, irritably aggrieved. Seeing his angry state, Bai Shishir suddenly chuckled. Her pearly white teeth were revealed, making her appear even more beautiful. Long Chen's heart was moved. Bai Shishir was already very beautiful, but this laugh made even Long Chen's previous vexation vanish in an instant. Beauty could easily make a person forget all their vexations. Long Chen hastily turned his face away from her. Bai Shishir couldn't help asking, "Did you get a guilty conscience?" "What guilty conscience? Don't use your beauty to seduce me. Let me tell you, Boss San won't fall for the carrot or stick, but I will fall for this," said Long Chen. Bai Shishir laughed. He had sounded so righteous until he exposed his true character at the end. Furthermore, he exposed it so frankly. Using beauty to seduce someone? That was far beneath Bai Shishir, but Long Chen somehow made it sound as if he was praising her beauty. Although Bai Shishir was naturally beautiful, she didn't particularly care about other people's praise toward her looks. It was only Long Chen's praise that she liked to hear. "Do you know? I'm a bit angry," said Bai Shishir. "What are you angry about? Can you have some, nothing?" Long Chen was about to ask if she could have some common sense, as she had been the one to pinch him, so why would she be the angry one? But that seemed to be a bit rude, so he swallowed those words. "Of course I'm angry. You're so powerful, but you didn't tell me. When I think about how I want to die from embarrassment. You're a swindler." Bai Shishir turned red. She thought of how she had held his hand before and said that even when she was stronger than him, she would do her best to listen to him. Just thinking about it vexed and embarrassed her. It was a sickening feeling. Back then, she had just passed through her tribulation and started to merge with the inheritance of the Master of the Golden Sword. Her power had risen to a level she herself had never dared to imagine. Hence, she had thought that in the future, she would far surpass Long Chen. In order to avoid Long Chen feeling bad, she had intentionally said those words. She hadn't expected that in this battle, Long Chen would reveal an even more terrifying combat power. In the end, he even slew Jia Luo, shocking everyone. What is so great about that? I really am not as strong as you. When I killed Jia Luo at the end, it was only because of that divine weapon. If you had that divine weapon, you also could have killed Jia Luo, said Long Chen indifferently. Long Chen, what kind of divine weapon is that? Can you show it to me? Asked Bai Shishir curiously. Of course, but you cannot touch its edge. Long Chen looked around, and seeing no one else, he carefully took out the dagger. Why is this seemingly ordinary dagger so amazing? Bai Shishir examined it for a long time without noticing anything extraordinary about it. She then returned it to Long Chen. Long Chen put it away and told her how he had found it, almost dying in the process. Long Chen also didn't know the origin of this dagger, but he knew that it was the most terrifying divine weapon that he had encountered up to now. Jia Luo's armor had a divine venerate's blessing, and an ordinary world king was unable to even approach him in that state. But this dagger had completely ignored that armor. It could be seen just how terrifying it was. Long Chen, what are you thinking of doing next? Asked Bai Shishir. Once the academy is repaired, I might be leaving the dark light heaven. I need to do something important. An image of a mirror appeared in Long Chen's mind. Long Chen then saw countless spots of light within the mirror, and they had auras just like his. Favorite. Chapter 3473 Mysterious Mirror, You're going to leave? Bai Shishir was startled. Long Chen wasn't just planning on leaving the academy but also the entire dark light heaven? Long Chen nodded. This time, although he hadn't killed the 9 underworld Luocha, he had gained a great deal from her. Through the burning soul refinement, Huolinger had obtained this image of a mirror from her memories. That mirror reflected the 9 heavens and 10 lands. The specks of light flashing within it had the auras of 9 star heirs. Based on Long Chen's guess, this mirror was a divine item used for probing where the 9 star heirs were. It was like a pair of eyes overlooking the 9 heavens and 10 lands. It was no wonder that 9 star heirs were discovered so easily. This time, Long Chen had found the position of the mirror and was preparing to destroy it. That way, the 9 star heirs would be able to grow in peace. However, this time, it would be very dangerous. The heaven that he was going to was called the Violet Flame Heaven. The Violet Flame Heaven was said to be one of the 3 most intact heavens from that ancient desolate battle. Countless powerful sect inheritances existed, and they were almost all within those 3 heavens. Compared to the Violet Flame Heaven, the Dark Light Heaven was a pile of ruins. Long Chen also noticed another problem. Despite his fame spreading far and wide, up to now, he had only found Qin Feng and Qiyu. He still had no information on the others. That meant that the Dragon Blood warriors were mostly not within the Dark Light Heaven. If he wanted to gather the Dragon Blood Legion again, he had to leave this place. Then we can go together? Probed Bai Shishir. Long Chen shook his head. If we both go, who will guard the 7th Branch Academy? I'm going to leave by myself. You can leave the academy to the main academy, said Bai Shishir hastily. Shishir, listen to me. Long Chen suddenly held Bai Shishir's hands. He solemnly said, Our High Firmament Academy has many aspects that even you don't know about. Before this, the elders carried our burden. Now that we've grown up, we have to learn how to lift that burden. We should take as much responsibility for ourselves as possible. The academy isn't having such an easy time because of it. Once I leave, this place will be entrusted to you. I hope that you can protect everything of mine that is here. Properly cultivate and raise your power so that you can help me in the future. Bai Shishir's heart warmed with Long Chen holding her hands. But for Long Chen to leave on his own, she was still unwilling. Her eyes reddened. How long will it take? Bai Shishir bit her cherry lip. Seeing her in this state, Long Chen also felt a current of warmth in his heart. This stubborn girl had managed to make him unwilling to part with her. It won't take long. Have you forgotten? Our High Firmament Academy has branches spread throughout the 9 heavens and 10 lands. Once I go there, I will find the ruins of another branch academy, and then we can be together once more. I believe that at that time, you will have fully mastered the inheritance of that senior. I'll rely on you to protect me in the future, said Long Chen with a smile. Only then did Bai Shishir also smile. She was a bit gratified, and she even felt a bit bad about her sentimentality. There was no choice but to say that when women were drawn into the whirlpool of romance, intelligence went out the window. She believed whatever Long Chen said without overthinking it. Bai Shishir's smile was like a flower, and Long Chen was struck dumb by it. He couldn't help sighing, Your smile is so beautiful. It would be nice if you could smile more frequently. I will only smile for you, not for others, said Bai Shishir, still smiling. To have the favor of the High Firmament Academy's #1 beauty is the blessing of several lifetimes. Speaking of which, where did that fellow Su Changchuan go? When Long Chen thought of the Academy's #1 beauty, he also thought of the old #1 handsome man, Su Changchuan. Bai Shishir shook her head. Ever since the 9 prefecture convention, he has vanished. He has never appeared again or sent back any word. Last time, he said that something popped up in his family and he needed to go back. And then there's been nothing. Long Chen found it curious. Although they had started with some disagreement, later they had gotten to know each other better. Long Chen didn't dislike his character. After Long Chen had privately taught him how to pick up girls, they had settled their misunderstandings. So, for him to suddenly vanish was a bit sudden. That fellow comes from an area forbidden to life, which conceals a heaven-shaking secret. They're very mysterious. When he came to the academy and revealed his status, he shook the entire academy. But that overbearing show-off style of his was dislikable, so I found him annoying, said Bai Shishir. Although Su Changchuan was very handsome, he had an overbearing pride in his bones. That pride was something that Bai Shishir also had. Thus, when he said that he wished to pursue Bai Shishir, he had already missed his chance. Just how prideful was Bai Shishir? The two of them had instantly ended up at odds, and both their sharp lights opposed each other. It wasn't wooing but fighting, seeing who could subdue the other. It was very childish. Thus, no matter what kind of sincerity Su Changchuan had taken out, it was considered a provocation in Bai Shishir's eyes, and she disliked him. There was even one time when she had been so enraged that she almost tried to kill him. If it hadn't been for her mother stopping her, perhaps she really would have killed him. However, ever since Long Chen appeared, Bai Shishir was influenced quite a bit. This fellow who never acted according to common sense always caught people off guard. Long Chen was truly a mysterious existence that made her curious. She couldn't help wanting to see through him. However, the closer she got to Long Chen, the more she found him mysterious. Sometimes he was warm, sometimes he was domineering. Sometimes he was as crafty as a fox, sometimes he was as fierce as a tiger. Sometimes he was a wise sage, but sometimes he became an idiot who caused a mess. To sum it up, she was unable to tell just what kind of person he was. But as she stared at him, without being aware of it, she was drawn to him. By the time she sensed the danger, she was unable to extricate herself. Furthermore, the longer she knew him, the more she felt herself maturing as well. She saw problems clearer. Thus, when she compared Long Chen and Su Changchuan, the latter seemed to be an immature child. It was also due to this that she no longer found Su Changchuan so detestable. Now that Long Chen mentioned Su Changchuan, Bai Shishir also grew curious. It couldn't be that due to his failure, knowing that he wasn't a match for Long Chen, this fellow dejectedly ran away, right? But she couldn't say such a thing out loud. On the other hand, Long Chen felt that Su Changchuan's disappearance didn't quite make sense. But as for the exact situation, perhaps only Su Changchuan himself knew. The area forbidden to life, a region that others couldn't touch. Everything inside was secret. Su Changchuan himself had never divulged anything about it to others. Thus, he himself was also a mystery. Half a month later, the 7th Branch Academy was rebuilt. All the materials that went into it were top grade. Long Chen had spent a full 10 million Immortal King crystals to create a 7th Branch Academy that was a war fortress. Other than not being able to move, it had almost no weaknesses. An attack like the last one was unable to shake this academy. However, Long Chen also knew that the just-defeated Imputa and Liao Bensong wouldn't be returning anytime soon. They knew that Long Chen wouldn't give them that chance. Furthermore, they had taken heavy losses this time. Liao Bensong had lost 2 avatars, which signified that his divine energy was no longer able to descend upon the dark light heaven. During the time that the 7th Branch Academy was being built, Long Chen proposed to Bai Zhantong to directly wipe out the 9 Underworld Hall and the Bloodkill Hall. Bai Zhantong instantly agreed. However, when they arrived at the various Bloodkill Halls and 9 Underworld Halls spread throughout the major domains, they found that the people there had long since vanished. Bai Zhantong was so enraged that he directly smashed apart their palaces. Clearly, Imputa and Liao Bensong had also known that the High Firmament Academy would counterattack. In order to conserve their forces, they had their believers hide themselves. Even as their palaces were smashed apart, even as their divine statues were broken, the 9 Underworld Hall and the Bloodkill Hall didn't show themselves. Without those as a foundation, they wouldn't dare to reveal themselves in the near future either. You're going to the Violet Flame Heaven? Have you thought this through? Asked the Sweeping Elder. I suppose I haven't really thought it through. The main thing is that there is nothing to think about. Long Chun shook his head with embarrassment. He had no plan or ideas for the Violet Flame Heaven. He knew nothing about it. Moreover, planning wasn't his style. Planning wasn't as fast as taking action, so he couldn't be bothered. The Violet Flame Heaven has 10,000 races standing tall, and experts are as common as ants. Heavenly geniuses are so numerous that they are like grains of sand in a river. Going to take a look there is good too. The Sweeping Elder nodded. The 7th Branch Academy is already rebuilt, and everything is settled appropriately. I came to ask for some pointers, to see if you have anything I should pay attention to, said Long Chen. As his cultivation base grew, Long Chen found that this elder was growing increasingly unfathomable. The rainbow crane race had long lifespans, but this elder had sent off several generations of them. This was definitely a true living fossil. Listening to this elder definitely wasn't bad. There's nothing in particular. For youngsters to suffer a bit isn't a bad thing. They only learn their lessons that way. If you slam into many nails, either you learn to get out of the way or you grow an iron armor, said the elder with a smile. Long Chen also smiled. Senior is laughing at me. Does Senior think that I'm so hot-headed and don't learn my lessons? Long Chen was precisely the kind of person to smash into a wall over and over again without looking back, smashing himself into it until he finally broke through. Sometimes when he was calm, he would also feel himself to be very foolish. But it was truly rare for him to be so cool-headed. If he was always cool-headed, he wouldn't be Long Chen. That is just your character. It can't be called bad, but it also can't be called good. Every person pursues their own things. Since people have different goals, they have different attitudes toward life. Such a thing cannot be judged. The Violet Flame Heaven is a good place. But a good place also has even crueler competition. Things appear in order on the surface, but that peace covers up the wild undercurrents beneath. Within the Violet Flame Heaven are the ruins of the 36th branch, the 47th branch, and others. There are 7 branch ruins in total. As long as our main academy remains, the foundation stones are in a deep slumber and cannot be broken. If you can activate a branch academy, our High Firmament Academy's power will be able to descend upon the Violet Flame Heaven. However, you have to know that the reason that you could take back the 7th Branch Academy is because the other side had abandoned the Dark Light Heaven. They have now sealed off the others. It will be very difficult for something like the 7th Branch Academy's incident to occur again. Don't get greedy for premature success, said the Sweeping Elder. Long Chen nodded. Taking back the 7th Branch Academy had mostly been thanks to luck, while the other aspect was that the other side simply hadn't placed him in their eyes. After all, at that time, he had only been in the Four-Peak realm. The other thing was that the struggle for the heavenly rainbow flame had drawn the other side's attention, and that was what had given Long Chen his chance. Despite that, it had taken Long Chen a great deal of effort to take back the 7th Branch Academy. After suffering that loss, the other side definitely wouldn't be so careless again. Senior, don't worry, this time I will definitely be careful. Do you have any other pointers for this little one? Asked Long Chen. No. The Sweeping Elder shook his head. Long Chen bowed to the elder and left. Originally, he was thinking of going to see the Rainbow Crane race, but thinking of how Little Crane was probably still sleeping from using up so much energy to expel the death chi last time, he chose not to disturb her. The Sweeping Elder hadn't given him much advice. That actually made Long Chen feel even steadier. And back in the 7th Branch Academy, everything was almost ready. Long Chen searched through all the wealth from the Integral Heaven Star Field. He tossed them into the various treasuries. In the future, the 7th Branch Academy's disciples could exchange points for those treasures. The main resources were medicinal pills. There was a veritable ocean's worth of medicinal pills. Even if Long Chen shared them with the main academy, they wouldn't be used up without at least a few centuries. So, it could be said that the 7th Branch Academy's financial power was terrifying. After devouring so many corpses, the primal chaos spaces with foundation divine trees had exploded in growth, reaching a tremendous height. Their enormous life energy was like a sea. Last time, in battle, Long Chun clearly felt just how powerful their life energy was. As long as they were present, Long Chun possessed a kind of undying body. Boom. Suddenly, his body shook intensely, and a wild power exploded within him. It was like hundreds of volcanoes were erupting at the same time within him. Long Chen had just consumed a violet tower pill. Despite being mentally prepared and even summoning the divine ring and battle armor, the immense power was still like wild horses refusing to listen to orders. Those horses were running rampant throughout his body. They seemed to have their own spirits and didn't want to be devoured. They were doing their best to resist. Long Chen tried to control them, but he was unable to force them to that spot right below his dantian. They also seemed to know that they would be devoured if they entered that place, so they resisted with all their power. Boom. Long Chen suppressed the medicinal energy with all his power. Just as he was about to force it to the position of the violet tower star, the medicinal energy exploded, transforming into trillions of droplets that fled to the star diagram in his dantian. Long Chen suddenly had a thought. When that medicinal energy scattered, it merged into the 108,000 stars, trying to use them to conceal themselves. Long Chen immediately activated his astral power. After being scattered, the medicinal energy instantly lost the ability to resist. Long Chen was about to send that medicinal energy toward the position of the violet tower star when the Feng Fu star suddenly shook. Without giving Long Chen a chance to react, it was like a black hole cleanly devouring all of the medicinal energy. This path was opened by me? Pay my toll if you want to pass? Comno //vel //by/n/. Net. This Long Chen was dumbfounded. The medicinal energy that was supposed to be used to condense the violet tower pill had been entirely consumed by the Feng Fu star. Could it be? Just then, something that dumbfounded Long Chen occurred. The Feng Fu star had absorbed all the medicinal energy spread throughout the 108,000 stars. It then cracked, and a layer of violet spots appeared on top of the Feng Fu star. Following that, it returned to calm. This tribulation pill's vast energy only caused a few spots to appear on the Feng Fu star, and that was it. Last time, when Long Chen condensed the Nethergate star, although the energy of the pills was also absorbed by the other 5 stars, such a thing had never occurred. Now, all the energy of the medicinal pill was fully absorbed by the Feng Fu star. The other stars didn't even get a trace of it. Moreover, no energy was used on condensing the actual violet tower star. It was still non-existent. Long Chen then swallowed another pill. With his experience from last time, he didn't suppress it. As a result, the 108,000 stars shook, and the medicinal energy was naturally drawn inside them. Just like last time, the Feng Fu star was like a whale sucking in water, absorbing all of that energy without giving a drop to the other stars. Another few violet spots appeared on the Feng Fu star, and Long Chen devoured close to 100 pills just like that. The Feng Fu star was covered in violet spots, but Long Chen wasn't able to sense any change in himself at all. Long Chen sighed dispiritedly. Although he had known that condensing the violet tower star would use quite a few medicinal pills, he hadn't expected 100 of them to be consumed without even causing a ripple. Long Chen clenched his teeth and continued consuming them. 200, 500, 1,000. All the 3,000 violet tower pills that he had were fully consumed. Now, the Feng Fu star was covered in dense spots. The star that was originally a white blaze had now become violet. The violet light was beautiful and mesmerizing. Just looking at it drew him into a fantasy land. As it slowly circulated, Long Chen suddenly sensed that violet spots had appeared in his blood as well at some point. Long Chen suddenly unleashed a punch. There was no gust of wind, but the entire room shuddered and countless defensive runes lit up. That was the reaction of the room being under immense pressure. This power, Long Chen's heart shook. The power of his blood qi hadn't changed, but it seemed that a new power had appeared in his body. This power was something that he had never encountered before. He was unable to tell what it was, but it seemed to have great destructive power toward the laws of the world. As for the violet spots in his blood, they seemed to have silently transformed his body, but he wasn't able to control them. The 9-star master managed to beat the ghost sovereign. His cultivation technique is definitely unrivaled. Whatever, all I can do is follow my path. Long Chen clenched his teeth and tried to comfort himself. He knew that the slower the progress, the greater the violet tower star must be. But he was truly afraid of the number of medicinal pills that he needed. He was unable to endure the expense. He had only refined 3,000 pills with all his ingredients. He had as many plant ingredients as he wanted, but when it came to the ingredients from demonic beasts and spirit beasts, it was difficult to obtain them in the quantities that he required. Although Zheng Wenlong had told Long Chen that he would help him gather them, according to Zheng Wenlong's estimate, the quantity of the ingredients would not surpass the last time. The Dark Light Heaven's few major star fields only had so many resources. Also, the ingredients that Long Chen required were rather rare. Some of them were very difficult to find. In other words, when Zheng Wenlong once more sent Long Chen new ingredients, he would only be able to use them to refine another 3,000 violet tower pills. That was far too little compared to the amount that he needed. comno//vel//by/n/net. It wasn't that Zheng Wenlong was ineffective, but that the ingredients could not be produced by the Dark Light Heaven. That was why they were so sparse. However, Long Chen wasn't worried. He was about to go to the Violet Flame Heaven. As long as he had money, he definitely wouldn't be lacking resources. After he finished consuming the medicinal pills, he calmed himself, entering an empty mind state. He carefully sensed the violet spots in his body and experienced their changes. He immersed his mind inside one of those spots, magnifying it by 1,000 times. After that, Long Chen was shocked to find that these spots had egg-like entities inside. They seemed like irregular eggs. There was some mysterious energy slumbering inside these eggs, but that energy wasn't something that he could estimate with his soul. It was very mysterious. These slumbering eggs made Long Chen's blood grow more active. As for the true dragon essence blood, it didn't reject them. The two were not just getting along, but the dragon blood was also seemingly very active because of it. The 9-star Hegemon body art's power was unimaginable. Long Chen was unable to understand, and so he didn't bother wasting the effort to try. Those violet spots seemed to be transforming his body in some way. Although he was unable to tell how exactly his body was being transformed, he believed that it would only make him stronger. I'll have to quicken the pace. Looking at the empty spot that belonged to the Violet Tower Star, as well as the 5 stars that hadn't even reacted at all, he sighed. They were like hungry wolves waiting for their turn. He could see that condensing the Violet Tower Star would require satisfying the other 6 stars first. Otherwise, the medicinal energy wouldn't go toward the Violet Tower Star. In his battle against the 9 underworld Luo Cha, although he had suppressed her, he had also seen her terrifying potential. That Luo Cha manifestation actually possessed countless invisible tentacles that extended into the void. It was simply that the 9 underworld Luo Cha was unable to activate those tentacles. Although Long Chen didn't know what those tentacles were for, they gave him a threatening feeling. That feeling was still fresh in his mind. Thus, he felt a powerful sense of crisis. Long Chen had the 9-star Hegemon body art, but other people also had their terrifying trump cards. Furthermore, the 9 underworld Luo Cha was backed by the entire 9 underworld hall. Her realm was also higher than his. If she awakened her manifestation first, he would definitely be the one at a disadvantage. That idiot Liao Bensong had actually managed to raise such a frightening existence. So, Long Chen refused to believe that a crafty fox like Enputa wouldn't have any true experts as subordinates. Compared to Liao Bensong, Long Chen was more afraid of that fat fox. Through this battle, Long Chen also understood Enputa and Liao Bensong's true power. The power of an avatar was definitely less than 1/10 of the true body. Fortunately, they were unwilling to pay the huge price to cross heavens personally, Otherwise, even 10,000 lives wouldn't be enough to survive that ordeal. After seeing the difference in power, Long Chen's fighting spirit was provoked. He was still young and had limitless potential. Time was his greatest weapon. Long Chen then left his room and sat through a transportation formation to the Luo family. After that, he gave his two uncles 2 heaven-tier heavenly Dao fruits. That way, the Luo family would have 2 heaven-tier immortal kings standing guard, and their foundation would be even more stable. He also left a large number of ordinary heavenly Dao fruit, doing his best to raise the Luo family's disciples. Through this battle, he found that their potential was truly immense. Many of them had activated their violet blood, and that was almost equivalent to dragon blood battle armor. If the Luo family's disciples were raised properly, they would become a very powerful army. At the same time, Long Chen also looked after the academy. The Luo family's medicinal pills were provided by the 7th Branch Academy. As his mother owed the Luo family a great deal, he would carry this burden. Long Chen wasn't hoping for the Luo family's disciples to do anything for him. He was purely thinking about repaying the Luo family. Then he would feel a bit better inside. 3 days later, Long Chen's mind, body, and spirit were in peak condition. Putting on a new set of black robes, with the Minghong saber on his back, he silently left the 7th Branch Academy on his own. Chapter 3476 Giant Ship Long Chen stealthily left without saying goodbye to anyone. But Bai Shishir, Bai Xiaole, Qin Feng, Shi Yu, Su Zixiong, and the others who were close to him knew that he had left. To avoid increasing any sad feelings, Long Chen didn't want them to send him off. In this world, nothing was constant. Every time they parted, it could be forever. No matter how powerful someone was, they were afraid of goodbyes. Having decided on his path, Long Chen could only continue down it. He couldn't retreat. However, when he stealthily slipped away from the academy, he could sense pairs of eyes behind him watching the direction he left from some hidden corners. Anyway, he could be at complete ease when it came to the 7th Branch Academy. Not to mention the protection of the main academy, even Bai Shishir alone was enough to stop their enemies. Back then, she was already able to fight Jia Luo all alone. Furthermore, as time passed and she digested the inheritance of the Master of the Golden Sword, she would continue getting stronger. It had to be known that this was an extraordinarily terrifying figure. Long Chen sat through multiple transportation formations and quickly reached the border of the Empyrean Heaven star field. After passing through the border, he took out a map and set off in the northwestern direction. After another wild land, he saw another star field, which was an endless desert. He couldn't see any signs of civilization or any signs of wild beasts here. Long Chen then spent a whole day flying without the scenery changing in the slightest. It was just sand. That feeling of isolation made him think of death. At this moment, Long Chen squatted down and grabbed a fistful of sand. Sensing the endless time energy within, he sighed. The legend has it that this place was once a beautiful world of verdant hills and clear waters. There was abundant spiritual qi. But after a battle, it was turned into a land of death. Even after 1 trillion years, it has yet to recover. I wonder what kind of power can cause heaven and earth to wither like this. Even the heavenly Daos are badly damaged. Long Chen knew that this sand was not natural. It was the result of a terrifying being causing such destruction that even the heavenly Daos were affected, turning this place into a land of death. A single person's power had been enough to destroy this star field. Just what kind of terrifying power did that require? Back on the Martial Heaven continent, Long Chen had encountered those who could control sand. But compared to this expert, there was simply no comparison. The place Long Chen was standing at had some of that ancient aura. But so much time had passed that even using the 9-star Hegemon body art to grasp the scars left and look back didn't show Long Chen anything. He could only give up. Long Chen continued on his way, still not sensing any signs of life. The heavenly Daos were also listless. There was almost no spiritual qi here at all. Using the Lightning Falcon race's movement art, Long Chen's wings tore through the air. He was like an ancient bird as his speed was pushed to the limit. There were no mountains here, so he could fly without worrying about running into something. If someone was watching from a distance, they would only see a bolt of lightning streaking through the air and an endless dragon of sand flying out of the ground. Long Chen flew for 3 days and nights before reaching the edge of this region. As he entered a new star field, he finally saw some life forms. However, they were not humans, only some wild beasts. Although there was some slight spiritual chi here, it was very sparse and not suitable for cultivation. Even the beasts couldn't grow particularly big. After passing through another star field, occasionally checking his map to make sure that he was going in the right direction, Long Chen continued on. Without this map, going at such a wild speed, he would have long since gotten lost. He flew for a whole month and passed through 7 star fields. 3 areas were filled with death. Some of the star fields had some strange laws that affected a person's mind, and some of them had poison gas leaking. Even immortal kings could die to that poison if they stayed for too long. After all, not everyone had Long Chen's speed. An ordinary immortal king would take a whole month traveling day and night just to cross a single star field. Furthermore, due to the lack of spiritual chi, some of these star fields couldn't even be crossed using flying boats. The meaning of the boat part meant that there needed to be water to cross, and the water here referred to spiritual chi. A world without spiritual chi could not be crossed by relying only on the flying boats' formations and spirit stones. Thus, not many people possessed the ability to cross these star fields. Other than the Huayan Trading Company and the like who possessed special tools to cross such a world, few others could. But when Long Chen asked about it, he learned that the price was truly terrifying. Thus, the Huayan Trading Company had to store up a certain amount of wares before crossing such an area. Otherwise, all the money would be lost just by crossing. Long Chen was capable and had the guts to cross. He passed through so many star fields all on his own. It was only when he reached the 8th star field that he finally felt a burst of spiritual chi. However, the density of the spiritual chi here was still a far cry from the Empyrean Heaven star field. Where there was spiritual chi, there was the human race. Also, there was one good thing about Long Chen coming here. No one recognized him and he was no longer the center of attention. That actually gave him a very safe feeling. With the human race present in this area, everything was more convenient. He found a prefecture city, and after sitting through a few transportation formations, he arrived at the edge of this star field in just half a day. After passing through the barrier, he found that there were fewer lands and more islands. However, the human race had some difficulties living here. There were demonic beasts in the depths of the sea that threatened their lives. This shoreside star field was filled with islands scattered about like stars in the sky. However, many islands were occupied by devil beasts. There were also many resting sea demons. Only a small portion of these islands was occupied by the human race. In order to survive, they had no choice but to fight off sea demons that threatened their shores. The legend was that the shoreside star field was once half land and half sea. After that battle of the desolate era, the land sank and the terrain changed, resulting in so many islands. The cultivators here usually hunted sea demons and other demonic beasts, selling their corpses for money. Long Chen's goal was the largest island, called the Long Green Island. This island was actually a great deal larger than the Heavenly Swell domain. It was also the island with the strongest defenses here. If I want to go to the Violet Flame Heaven, I have to pay quickly. The ship's going to be here soon. If I miss it this time, I'll have to wait 3 months for the next one. Long Chen quickly rushed out of the transportation formation. He heard people shouting on the other side. Wow, did I really come at just the right time? Long Chen was delighted. He hadn't expected his luck to be so good. Without waiting at all, he could get onto the ship. When he said that he wanted to get onto the ship, someone immediately came to guide his way. But just guiding his way required a fee of 1 immortal king crystal. The immortal king who led Long Chen also explained various things to him and helped him handle some things. It was quite worth it. Long Chen then paid 100 immortal king crystals as his fee for staying on the ship. Stepping onto the transportation formation, he appeared before a grand and enormous ship. Following that, he also saw a group of fiendish faces. Favorite. Chapter 3477. Just wait. Little fellow, I see that your clothes aren't bad. I should warn you that you bought a room on the lowest level. That place is packed and chaotic. Also, many people have dirty hands and feet there. I'd advise you to pay a bit more to get a better room, said a mortal-tier immortal king. His cultivation base was only average, but his face was fierce. He stared at Long Chen coldly. Long Chen looked at him. Did they take him to be a novice who hadn't seen the world? Do you think I can't read? It clearly said that I bought a room on the middle level, said Long Chen lightly. Upon hearing this, that person's expression sank. He coldly said, the middle level's rooms are all taken. Now, people who bought middle level floors can only go to the low floor, understood? Let's see if you're a smart person. Do you not understand what I'm saying? Long Chen laughed inside. It seemed that this move really was common. The person that had led the way for him for an immortal king crystal had truly led him here. That person made it seem like the price was very reasonable, and after selling the ticket, he sent Long Chen straight to this robber. He was truly shameless. Long Chen had clearly bought a room on the middle level, but he was now told that he had to go to the low level. To put it frankly, they wanted him to buy a more expensive room. If I say no, asked Long Chen lightly. No? Do you think you have that privilege? If you don't want to get onto the ship, then scram. I've seen many people like you. Don't try to act profound with me, barked that person fearlessly. Get out of the way. If you have no money, then don't embarrass yourself here. Just then, a line began to form behind Long Chen. A fatty pushed past him, not even lining up and directly walking up. That fatty flashed a golden tablet, and the guards instantly let him through. That fatty looked arrogantly at Long Chen and the others before sneering and walking in. Do you see? That is true power, the willfulness of the rich. Those who don't have money should accept their fates and behave, sneered that immortal king. This giant ship was split into 4 levels: the low level, the middle level, the high level, and the top level. The high level cost over 1,000 immortal king crystals, while the top level cost a full 5,000 immortal king crystals. When Long Chen bought his ticket, someone had specifically explained just how luxurious the top floor was. There were even beautiful women to accompany people there, the kind that could do anything. There was also a special cultivation room, servants, and other things. It was a display of status and position. Long Chen wasn't lacking money, but he didn't want to be so exaggerated, so he had only bought a ticket for the middle level. The conditions there were average, but at least every person had a room on that level. It was passable. Unfortunately, things never went as he wished. Their cons came one after another like a bottomless hole. Is this how your Soaring Dragon Company acts? The one claimed to be on the same level as the Huayun Trading Company? Long Chen frowned. Long Chen had learned that this Soaring Dragon Company was enormous and a competitor of the Huayun Trading Company. However, in many domains, the Soaring Dragon Company simply couldn't compare to the Huayun Trading Company. Despite that, they were still an enormous entity. Furthermore, it was said that their main business was focused within the violet flame heaven, and they had little business in the dark light heaven. The business of ferrying people across heavens was originally a competition between the Soaring Dragon Company and the Huayun Trading Company. However, a few thousand years ago, the Soaring Dragon Company's price per ticket plummeted, while the Huayun Trading Company's price remained the same. As a result, almost all experts who wished to go to the Violet Flame Heaven chose to use the Soaring Dragon Company. Due to this, the Huayun Trading Company backed out from this business. Long Chen was also very curious about this. According to the Huayun Trading Company's rules, they couldn't con others. Their prices were always very fair. However, the Soaring Dragon Company actually used low prices to attract people. They were making a loss from that but gaining fame in this regard. Furthermore, after the Huayun Trading Company retreated from this business, the Soaring Dragon Company didn't increase the price. It was just that their service grew worse and worse. However, compared to a high ticket price, people seemed to be more willing to accept this lackluster service. But Long Chen was a bit irritated as he didn't like being conned. Little fellow, let me just warn you not to cause trouble for me. Either get on or scram. The Immortal King immediately grew impatient when Long Chen brought up the Huayun Trading Company. His tone became even more threatening. "Big brother, I'm afraid." Just then, Long Chen heard a tender voice behind him quivering slightly. Long Chen then looked back to see a girl hiding behind a man, staring fearfully at those ominous experts in front of the boat. And Enbisby, that man hastily comforted his little sister, but he was also very tense. It was just that he acted calm for his sister. Long Chen didn't bother continuing to quibble with these people, and he nodded. Seeing him submit, those immortal kings all looked at him disdainfully. They directly took Long Chen's silver tablet and replaced it with a bronze one. As a result, Long Chen's middle-level room became the low level, and with the price for a low-level ticket being 60 immortal king crystals, Long Chen lost out on 40 immortal king crystals. A flare of anger burst in his heart. He could eat anything with this mouth of his, but he refused to eat a loss. "Little brats, just wait. Once we finish crossing, I'll show you who the boss is." Long Chen walked up and there were 4 paths before him. Clearly, the most broken one was the one for the low level. It was only after setting foot on the ship that he realized it was even bigger than it looked. That was due to the spatial runes inside the ship. At the low level, he felt like he had entered a bee's nest. All kinds of ruckus assaulted his ears. It was one floor, a single flat surface. There were no separate rooms or shelters. Everyone was like refugees sitting on the ground in small groups, chatting. They were discussing whether or not things in the violet flame heaven would be better. They looked forward to excelling once they arrived. All of them were excited, so their voices were rather loud. There were millions of experts chatting on this level. Some were so excited that they were jumping around. Seeing that, Long Chen's anger diminished. It seemed that the atmosphere on the low level wasn't bad. The cultivation bases amongst these people varied. Some were immortal kings, but there were very few of them. The majority were divine lords like Long Chen with some 4 peak experts among them. "Brother, if you don't mind, you can sit here." Seeing how packed this floor was, Long Chen was looking for a place for himself. If he wanted to sit on the ground, he had to at least have the space. At this moment, a warm voice called out to him. Long Chen nodded his thanks to that person, but his gaze ended up falling on a muscular bald man who was occupying a large area all by himself. He then walked toward that bald man. "Scram. This is my territory. Anyone who gets close will dash." That immortal king glared at Long Chen darkly like a wild dog protecting its food and baring its teeth. Long Chen immediately slapped him. That bald man didn't even finish talking before he was sent flying and smashed into the wall. The noisy world instantly fell silent. Favorite. Chapter 3478 Target, Violet Flame Heaven Bang. That bald man smashed into the wall. Although he had a sturdy body, he was like dough smashing into the wall. His body was completely deformed. The bald man then slid down with a creaking sound, and his blood stained the wall. For a moment, everyone was struck dumb. This was a powerful immortal king whose appearance was as ominous as a fiend. No one had dared to provoke him. Thus, when they saw the more refined-looking Long Chen send him flying with a slap, all their jaws dropped. Long Chen had been holding back a belly full of fire. This fellow was the most arrogant one here, occupying an area of several square meters just for himself. If Long Chen didn't put him in his place, he wouldn't be Long Chen. That bald man slid down. Half of his face was swollen like a pig's, while the other half was caved in. The handprint was still clear, looking both bizarre and funny. However, no one laughed. They were all staring in shock from Long Chen to that bald man. They all knew that both of them were very tyrannical existences. That bald man suddenly coughed up blood and slowly stood, flames almost bursting out of his eyes. It was such a frightening sight that the others around him fled. "If you want to die, then come." Long Chen didn't even look at him. He took out a blanket and sat lotus-style where the bald man had been sitting. Shocking everyone, that bald man just looked at Long Chen and found a new place for himself. In the end, he didn't dare to attack. He chose a new place, and the people there hastily squeezed to the sides to make room for him. Although his space was now a bit smaller, it was more than enough for him. Clearly, he was afraid of causing trouble for Long Chen. Long Chen had long since seen that this person was a fake. He was nothing more than a spirit-tier immortal king, and a very ordinary one at that. Such a figure could be killed in droves with a single slap from Long Chen, but this fellow wanted to show off here? Long Chen had given him a simple slap just as a warning. If he dared to retaliate, Long Chen wouldn't be so courteous. Entering just behind Long Chen was a brother and sister pair. The little sister was shaking. It seemed that she had never seen such a thing before. If you want to sit, then sit. I don't need this much space for myself. Long Chen smiled slightly at this frightened little girl. Then many thanks. The big brother hesitated but ultimately brought his little sister over to sit beside Long Chen. There were two of them, and the surroundings were packed. So, it was difficult for them to find a good spot. Since they didn't want to separate and Long Chen had invited them, they directly sat. Seeing that Long Chen was not rejecting people from his space, the others coming in all brazenly walked over to his side, first thanking Long Chen before sitting. This level gradually returned to its noisy state. People once more began to chat, and many people that didn't know each other introduced themselves. All of them were excited. Through listening to their conversations, Long Chen learned that less than half of these people came from this locality. The majority were from other star fields. They had spent their life's savings to buy a ticket to the Violet Flame Heaven. Moreover, it wasn't just a ticket but a chance that they dreamed of, a new cultivation world that they had only heard of in legends. The majority of the people here had good talents, but they didn't have much confidence in their eyes. To put it frankly, they were all poor people. Many of them had used up almost their entire family savings to buy the ticket. Some people were carrying the hopes of their entire families. To sum it up, they were full of hope and anticipation for the future. Seeing their excited expressions, Long Chen sighed inside. The stronger the place, the harsher the competition. Although there would be more opportunities, there would also be more cruel pitfalls that devoured people without leaving a trace. Unable to achieve their dreams in the Dark Light Heaven, they thought that they could grasp an opportunity to soar in the Violet Flame Heaven? That wasn't realistic. However, seeing their hopeful expressions toward the future, Long Chen was also affected. Wasn't life simply this way? You could choose to change your life, or you could choose to not change it at all. If you lived a calm and peaceful life with no excitement all the way until you were old, what would be the point? Long Chen suddenly smiled as he felt like he had gotten old. Even the viewpoint from which he looked at things was not the same as these people. Big brother, where are you from? Long Chen was surprised that the little sister of the brother-sister pair would take the initiative to speak to him. Little Rue. Her big brother jumped in horror, glaring at her. It was very rude to ask for someone's origins as soon as they met. Many experts would have a bad reaction to this. He hastily said to Long Chen, "Brother, my apologies. This little sister of mine doesn't know manners. Please don't take offense." Long Chen smiled slightly. "It's fine. I heard that the journey is quite long. We can chat to pass the time. I came from a very far-off place. You wouldn't know it even if I told you. I suppose that you too must be from the shoreside star field?" "Oh, big brother, how did you know?" Little Rue stared at Long Chen with her eyes wide open. This little Rue might not look particularly beautiful, but she did have a warm and sweet air to her. She was still innocent and didn't have any scheming inside her at all. Hence, Long Chen couldn't help but have a good feeling toward her. "You guys have the particular aura of the laws of the shoreside star field. It's very easy to recognize," explained Long Chen. The shoreside star field's native experts consumed medicinal pills that were mostly refined out of the demonic beasts from the bottom of the sea. As an alchemist, it was very easy for Long Chen to distinguish this. "You're right, we are native to this place. My apologies, this junior brother is by Fong, and this junior sister is by Rui. May I ask for brother's name?" Only then did Bai Fong notice that he hadn't introduced himself. "I am Long Chen." Long Chen didn't conceal his name. In any case, no one here knew him. "I didn't think that big brother Long Chen was so amazing. Plus, you're very nice and friendly. You look really good when you smile," said Bai Rui, seemingly not afraid of him at all. Long Chen was speechless. It seemed that his random smile, when he was thinking about how old he had gotten, had caused this girl to no longer fear him. As time passed, more and more people came in, so this place became more and more packed. Occasionally, someone from the ship would come in and shout at them. They said that there was still space in the middle level, so if anyone didn't want to stay packed here, they could pay the difference for a better room. When Long Chen saw that the person shouting was the one who had stopped him, his anger once more flared. This bastard, was he intentionally trying to anger him? After a few hours, the ship began to quiver slightly, and a cheer rang out. "We're setting off." The giant ship slowly began to move, braving the winds and waves, pushing forward with ever-increasing speed. The land quickly vanished from Long Chen's vision. A slight smile appeared on his lips. "And NBSP, Violet Flame Heaven, Boss Long San is coming. Are you prepared?" Chapter 3479. Brother and sister of the Bai clan standing on the deck, Long Chen felt the sea breeze blow, and his clothes flapped loudly. The giant ship was moving rapidly, but on this endless sea he was unable to sense its speed. Long Chen looked at the distant morning sun. Ever since coming to the immortal world, it was his first time feeling the sea breeze. Although the heavenly swell domain had a sea as well, it was the Devil Sea, a sea of death. So the water was flat. On the other hand, this place was a true sea, filled with life. Flowing across the vast sea, Long Chen felt himself to be so small. This wasn't in terms of power but mind. It was a strange feeling. Looking at this endless sea, others might feel fear, but he very much enjoyed it. Only by feeling just how small he was did he feel like an ordinary commoner. Sometimes living like a regular, ordinary person was real life. Sometimes Long Chen thought about whether he could live a normal, tranquil life. He would rather not have his current cultivation base and simply accompany his lovers through a peaceful life. Regretfully, he wasn't the sea but a raging river. He could not stop. Perhaps that only proved that he wasn't strong enough. Big brother Long Chen. Suddenly, a sweet voice drew him out of his stupor. Bai Rui had come. This was already their third day on the ship, and everyone was familiar with each other now. She kept calling him Big Brother Long Chen the entire time, just like her own big brother. Seeing this brother and sister come over, Long Chen smiled. "Little Rui, be careful. This is the lower level and there's no formation to protect you. You might get chills from the wind." There were all sorts of formations on this giant ship. It was unknown if it was intentional or what, but on the low level, the sea breeze was extremely chilly. Even ordinary cultivators would be chilled. Considering Bai Rui's weak constitution, she was unable to endure even a single day. "Hee, I'm not afraid. With Big Brother Long Chen's medicinal pill, I'm no longer afraid of the cold," declared Bai Rui with a giggle. On that day, seeing her suffer, Long Chen had given her a medicinal pill that gave her a natural resistance to the cold. Now, after seeing that Long Chen was just standing on the deck, she came over with Bai Fong. Long Chen felt great sympathy for these two. According to Bai Fong, they were once a noble family, but their enemies had massacred them and their family was destroyed. Of over 3,000 people, only the two of them had managed to escape. Seeing the mournful gaze in their eyes, Long Chen didn't doubt their words. While fleeing, they hadn't even had time to gather up any of their family's treasures. The two of them had sold off everything they had on them in order to pay for 2 tickets for the ship. Now, they didn't even have a single immortal king crystal. Moreover, the two of them didn't have much experience out in the world. If it hadn't been for Long Chen stopping them, they might have casually said their origins in front of everyone. To others, the Violet Flame Heaven was a place for them to chase their dreams. But to the two of them, it was somewhere they were fleeing to in order to escape their enemies. After learning about their dismal state, Long Chen grew more amiable toward them, delighting the two of them. Long Chen was someone who didn't even fear an immortal king, so he was definitely a peak expert. To be able to make friends with such an expert was an unimaginable fortune for them in their current state. Just as they were talking, Long Chen suddenly frowned and looked up. He saw someone staring at them from the middle level, either intentionally or unintentionally. That person pretended that his gaze was simply roving around, and he turned his head in the other direction. "What is it, Big Brother Long Chen?" asked Bai Rui, seeing Long Chen's somewhat odd expression. "It's nothing, let's go back. This place is cold." Long Chen shook his head and brought the two of them back to their little space. Although the interior was also cold, it was at least a bit better than the outside. At this time, the blaze of everyone's excitement had almost been blown out by these cold winds. Many people were shivering already. This wind was odd and was able to chill them down to their bones. It was like they were in the depths of the sea. Most terrifying of all, this cold breeze seemed to also be able to blow away their Yuan spirits. Some of the Four Peak disciples felt that in particular. Furthermore, the most infuriating thing was that the people on the middle level were all having a pleasant time, without the slightest breeze. Now, the people on the lower level even suspected that the Soaring Dragon Company had done this on purpose. However, they were already on their ship, so they could only listen to the Soaring Dragon Company. They didn't dare to say anything or unleash their wrath. They could only endure. Long Chen returned to his space and found that there were a few foreign faces now. They were all immortal kings. Bai Feng also took note of them. Long Chen clearly felt Bai Feng tense up, but he was worried about affecting his little sister, so he acted like he hadn't seen anything. "Everyone, this place is the low level, and our Soaring Dragon Company has no duty to activate the formation for you. However, considering your weak constitutions, we are going to give you some special care. The company has decided to activate the formation for you." Suddenly, a group of experts in lavish clothes walked in, with their leader speaking. Long Chen eyed that person and sneered. It was the same fellow who had conned Long Chen out of his middle-level ticket. He was back. However, Long Chen didn't immediately do anything. He wanted to see just how shady the Soaring Dragon Company was. Cheers rang out in the cabin when they heard that the formation would be activated. However, that man sneered, "But don't get happy too early. Activating the formation requires a huge number of Immortal King crystals. Those Immortal King crystals should be paid by you, but my Soaring Dragon Company pities you, so we have decided to help you pay the majority. All of you need to only pay a single Immortal King crystal each." A hissing sound rang out. It seemed that they wanted more money. However, those on the low level were all essentially broke. Every Immortal King crystal was incomparably precious to them. As for Bai Feng and Bai Rui, their pockets were empty. They were unable to take out an Immortal King crystal. For the others, every single Immortal King crystal was being saved for emergencies. What if when they arrived at the Violet Flame Heaven, they didn't even have a single bit of money? Then they would become beggars. Don't blame me for not warning you. Right now, we are still on the outer edge. Once we enter the deep sea region, especially when crossing the Fiend Devil Sea, the feeling of cold will be 100 times stronger. Let the lonesome Four Peak rookies, even Immortal Kings, will freeze. Don't worry, you won't freeze to death. But your realm might fall and your foundation could be harmed. Hee, but if you want to risk your life to save money, that's up to you. Just pretend I didn't say anything. Hearing that it would be 100 times worse later, everyone was scared. In the end, they could only accept this and take out Immortal King crystals. Long Chen sneered inside. There were millions of experts here. The Soaring Dragon Company was truly a group of scammers. What kind of broken formation required millions of Immortal King crystals? It wasn't just Long Chen who understood this. However, there was nothing they could do. The price of one Immortal King crystal was at least somewhat bearable for them. Long Chen paid for Bai Feng and Bai Rui. He had Bai Feng hand them over because he was afraid that he would kill that irritating Immortal King if they were face to face. It still wasn't the time for him to repay his debt. As expected, money could make even ghosts work. When the formation was activated, the cold breeze instantly vanished. Everything warmed up and everyone was excited. They now felt very comfortable. "Brother Long, I have something to discuss with you." Bai Feng suddenly began talking spiritually with Long Chen. "Speak," said Long Chen. "I have a priceless treasure in my hands, but others might have set their sights on it. I beg you to protect our lives." "I am willing to give this treasure to you," said Bai Feng. Chapter 34, 80 Settling Debt. "Are they after that treasure?" asked Long Chen. This treasure has caused the deaths of everyone in my family. Now it's just the two of us left. I didn't expect them to refuse to let us off even now, said Bai Fong hatefully. Ever since those people had set their sights on Bai Fong and Bai Ru, Long Chen already felt that things were not so simple. After all, the two of them were lacking experience. Although they had changed their appearance, their technique wasn't very good. Long Chen could easily see through it, but he simply acted like he couldn't. I don't mind if I die. But I am worried that my sister won't be able to survive on her own. She is terrified of the world and probably wouldn't survive much longer like this. Brother Long, I beg you to help us. Bai Long looked at Long Chen pleadingly. Currently, Bai Rui was sleeping on her big brother's lap. She was blithely unaware that a crisis had already befallen them. I can. As long as you don't leave my side, I can guarantee your safety. Long Chen nodded. Many thanks, Brother Long. I will immediately dash. As for the treasure, it's all right. I'm not greedy for your treasures. I'm only helping you because I think that you are kind. In my opinion, a kind heart should be treated warmly. Long Chen waved his hand. The two of them didn't have any scheming in their hearts at all. Otherwise, they wouldn't be viewed as fat sheep by others. As for whatever their so-called priceless treasure was, Long Chen wasn't interested. Just looking at their cultivation bases, he could tell that their background wasn't powerful. He was only helping them out of sympathy. This promise from Long Chen instantly made Bai Fong's eyes redden. Ever since they were forced to flee for their lives, Long Chen was the only good person they had encountered. Originally, the two of them had some money on them, but due to not knowing the pitfalls of the world, they ended up suffering some losses. All their money was conned away. If they hadn't bought the tickets for the ship in advance, they might not even have this final hope left. Without any experience and with bad luck plaguing them, they only encountered bad people. Bai Fong even felt like sometimes there was no more hope for them. Long Chen's existence was like a final straw of hope. Bai Fong could see that Long Chen was powerful. Originally, he was hoping to obtain Long Chen's support after arriving at the Violet Flame Heaven. After all, the two of them had no idea where to go in the Violet Flame Heaven. Unexpectedly, even on the ship, they were targeted. Feeling afraid, he begged for aid from Long Chen, and Long Chen readily agreed without wanting any reward. That made Bai Fong feel the sunlight within his world of darkness. The ship pressed onward. Wild winds and storms would sometimes buffet it. The other times, there would be a bright and glaring sun. Even this giant ship appeared minuscule on this endless sea. Furthermore, Long Chen sensed some strange laws affecting the space around. It was very difficult to fly here. There were invisible chaotic spatial currents. One mistake and you might be blown to who knew where. Even if you possessed a powerful physical body that didn't fear the current, in that chaotic flow, it wouldn't be long before you were so lost that you would never be able to find your way out. As the ship moved, Long Chen felt like it was passing through the starry sky. There were endless stars above, while at the bottom there seemed to be another starry sky. That feeling was truly mysterious. Long Chen thought of the clumps of nebulas that the heavenly rainbow fairy had shown him. Those were the 9 heavens. There seemed to be a black area between the heavens, separating them. Long Chen then looked at the originally blue seawater. It was starting to turn black. This was further proof that the heavenly rainbow fairy had shown him the true world. Long Chen often went to the deck and just stared out into space. Bai Fong and Bai Rui were very obedient, never separating from him. As for those immortal kings that had suddenly appeared, they seemed to be getting a bit impatient. Hey, brat, this is your middle-level tablet. Go to your room. The con man that had scammed Long Chen appeared, tossing a silver tablet to Long Chen. Bai Fong tensed up. Bai Rui didn't know what was going on, but she didn't want to part with Long Chen as she would feel afraid. No matter how inexperienced she was, she still managed to notice those immortal kings eyeing them. Long Chen didn't catch the tablet. So, the tablet that countless people in the low level dreamed of obtaining clattered to the ground. What do you think you're doing? That man's expression darkened. I'm doing whatever you're doing, said Long Chen indifferently. It seemed that the ones to set their sights on Bai Fong were the Soaring Dragon Company. This practically toppled Long Chen's understanding of businessmen. Are you looking to die? Killing intent appeared in that man's eyes. It seemed that he had also been holding back a long time and couldn't endure any longer. That's precisely what I was going to say to you. Long Chen smiled. Just then, over 10 experts surrounded Long Chen. Several of them had been brought by this man, while the others had been eyeing Bai Feng and Bai Rui this entire time. They were all immortal kings. Seeing this, Bai Rui cried out in horror and hid behind Bai Feng. Bai Feng also jumped in fear. So many immortal kings were making their move all at once. He was worried that Long Chen wouldn't be able to stop them. He wanted to help, but there was nothing he could do against so many immortal kings. He was nothing more than an ordinary mid-stage divine lord, not a match for these people. His head turned empty. If you want to die, I'll kill you right now, said that man. Long Chen didn't immediately reply. He only turned to Bai Rui, who was pale with fright. You're tired? Sleep for a bit. Bai Rui's head suddenly buzzed. Just like that, she collapsed on Bai Feng's back, sleeping. Only then did Long Chen turn back. His smile vanished, replaced with an icy expression. What did you say just now? I said, if you want to die, I'll kill you, shouted that man. Boom. He had just finished speaking when Long Chen's leg kicked out like lightning, striking him right in the chest. That man was sent flying like a cannonball, smashing into the wall. The immense power caused the ship to shake. No one knew whether it was a coincidence or not, but the place he smashed into was the same spot that the bald man had been slapped into at the start of the journey. However, this kick was even more vicious. The wall was several feet thick and made of the best steel. Because of it, the bald man had only left some bloodstains as he slid down, and the wall had been undamaged. But this time, a hole was smashed into that thick wall. That man coughed up 3 mouthfuls of blood. Even some of his insides were spat out. His head tilted as he collapsed on the ground just like that. It was unknown if he was dead or alive. Die! The other immortal kings were enraged. They hadn't expected Long Chen to dare to attack first. They pounced on him. After that, a cold light flashed and over 10 heads flew into the air at once. Chapter 3481 Scram. Over 10 immortal kings had their heads cut off at the same time. As their heads flew, the fires of their souls were extinguished. All of them were dead. Everyone was stunned, staring at Long Chen in horror. Long Chen actually dared to kill the people of the Soaring Dragon Company while on their ship. Furthermore, he actually possessed the power to kill over 10 immortal kings at once. They were completely shocked. In fact, people didn't even see what weapon he had used. That was because the saber on his back had not moved at all. In that instant, people finally realized that this black-robed man was an extraordinarily terrifying existence. However, why was such a terrifying existence lowering themselves to squeeze in with the rest of them here? The bald man that Long Chen had previously slapped was now covered in cold sweat. Fortunately, he had had a bad feeling and been smart back then, enduring that slap without retaliation. Otherwise, he would have been a corpse as well. Long Chen kicked those corpses into the sea and then extended his hand. That unconscious man seemed to fly toward Long Chen as if he had a rope attached to him. Long Chen caught his throat. His arm was forcibly torn off by Long Chen just like that, and the sharp pain instantly woke him up. He screamed like a pig being slaughtered. Little fellow, you dared to con boss Long San out of his money? You must be tired of living. Long Chen gazed sinisterly at the man whose face was already contorted with pain. You're setting yourself against our Soaring Dragon Company. You will die a miserable death, roared that man. Following this, his other arm was ripped off as well. The powerful physical body of an immortal king was as weak as paper in front of Long Chen. Ah! That man screamed again, and his scream stabbed people's ears. Stop! Suddenly, a shout rang out and a new group of people came, led by an imposing elder. The next moment, a terrifying pressure crashed down and instantly made everyone kneel. A world king! The disturbance here finally disturbed the real experts on the ship. However, when Long Chen looked at them, he merely spat out a single word. Scram! This one word caused countless eyes to almost pop out of their sockets. Just who was this youngster? Who are you? Seeing how tyrannical Long Chen was, that elder's heart thudded. Although Long Chen hadn't released his aura, his gaze was as sharp as a blade, giving even this elder a sense of danger. A little half-step world king? You aren't qualified to speak to me. Scram, said Long Chen. Long Chen had killed an unknown number of half-step world kings, so such a figure could not even enter his eyes. Now that his fury was released, he couldn't be bothered to even pay attention to this elder. Seventh uncle, save me dash, shouted Long Chen's captive. Suddenly, his throat tightened and he could no longer make any sound. Courting death. That half-step world king was enraged. With a flash, he appeared in front of Long Chen and unleashed a palm. Runes flowed into space, freezing it. Everyone instantly became immobile. This was the pressure of a world king. Boom. After that, astral winds blew back the surrounding people, and startled cries rang out. Fortunately, those astral winds weren't very powerful, or the people would have been blasted to death. When they looked back at Long Chen, they saw blood mist. They were horrified, thinking that Long Chen had been killed. However, they quickly saw Long Chen's figure through the blood mist. He was uninjured and was still in his slapping posture. As for that half-step world king, half his body was gone. Blood soaked his robes as he stared at Long Chen in shock and horror. If I wasn't worried about these people's safety, you would already be a dead person. Shouldn't you scram now? Said Long Chen coldly. An ordinary half-step world king dared to attack him? If he wasn't worried about the innocent people around him, Long Chen would be able to kill a mass of such figures with one slap. Friend, has my soaring dragon company let you down in some way? Suddenly, a new group of people appeared. These were all elders, and the three leaders were actually so old that their faces looked like tree bark. When they appeared, everyone's heart shook. Real-world kings. Previously, they had misjudged that half-step world king to be a world king. But now that these three had appeared, they understood what was the pressure of a true world king. 3 genuine world kings appeared at once, with 6 half-step world kings behind them. Adding on the one fighting Long Chen right now, there were 7 of them. There were actually so many experts on this ship. It could be seen just how terrifying the power of the Soaring Dragon Company was. What do you think? Long Chen tossed the original offender toward them. The latter had lost both his arms and simply lay there like a frog that had been stepped on. He hacked up blood, coughing and barely breathing. This man wouldn't survive. Long Chen had crushed his dantian, and no one could save him. Those elders' expressions sank. Long Chen wasn't giving them the slightest face. This was a slap in the face of the Soaring Dragon Company. Long Chen didn't show the slightest fear even against these 3 world kings. They were nothing more than ordinary world kings, and they were so old that their chi had started to regress. They weren't much of a threat to him. Chi-he, what happened here? The leader looked at the elder whose body had been half destroyed. It might be due to some misunderstandings between him and Chi-song, said that half-step world king, his expression changing. Misunderstandings? I bought a ticket for the middle level, but it was turned into the low level while you tried to extort me. How despicable. Is this how your Soaring Dragon Company conducts itself? Sneered Long Chen. Is this true? Demanded that elder. I don't know. It was all done by Chi-song. Cried Chi-he. Suddenly, Chi-song actually spoke. Perhaps this was the final light of the setting sun, but he said, 7th uncle, in all honesty, the money I made all went to dash, bang. Chi-he furiously crushed Chi-song's stomach, instantly ending his life. This bastard is too greedy. He actually wants to push the blame onto others? Long Chen sneered. He didn't say anything and just looked at their leader. That elder apologetically cupped his fists toward Long Chen. We've made Sir laugh at us. My Soaring Dragon Company has produced an ingrate. This old man will tidy our gate. Hearing this, Chi-he was shocked. Before he could react, that elder slapped his head. As a result, Chi-he's body quivered and then collapsed on the ground, the fire of his soul extinguished. Everyone was deathly silent and only stared in shock. A half-step world king was put to death just like that? Favorite. Chapter 3482. Most of the people on this ship had never even seen a half-step world king before. A figure on that level was a supreme existence to them. However, such a figure had been executed right in front of them. Even having personally witnessed it, they didn't dare to believe their eyes. This old man will take responsibility for this ingrate appearing in this company. I apologize to everyone. The elder actually bowed toward everyone, frightening everyone into returning the bow. The elder continued, "Old-timers like us are too lazy. We didn't discipline the children enough, resulting in someone damaging the reputation of the Soaring Dragon Company. This old man will take responsibility. Please give me a few days, and I will investigate this matter from start to end. I will definitely give everyone a just explanation. What does Sir think about that?" The last question was toward Long Chen. Long Chen indifferently said, "I don't care. The person who offended me I already killed. As for the rest, it means nothing to me. As long as I can peacefully reach the violet flame heaven, I can treat it as if nothing happened." The elder nodded and left with the others. Once those people were gone, everyone stared at Long Chen reverently. They hadn't expected there to be such a terrifying existence hiding amongst them. Even world kings were intimidated by him. Most importantly, he was only in the Divine Lord realm. How did he possess such terrifying power? That probably exceeded the scope of simply being called a genius, no? Seeing that even world kings didn't dare to push Long Chen, Bai Feng was delighted. This time he really had found a reliable backer. During the next few days, the Soaring Dragon Company sent people to return the immortal king crystals that they had paid. At the same time, they activated the formation to expand the space on the low level. They now had 100 times the space. In order to pressure everyone, that immortal king scammer had compressed the space here. That way, those that couldn't endure living like this would pay more immortal king crystals for a middle-level room. All that money entered the scammer's pocket. All the money that this person conned out of people was returned. Not only that, but due to the increased space, it was possible to take out beds and tents so that everyone could rest. In order to repay everyone, they also activated the Grand Spirit Gathering formation so that everyone could cultivate. Compared to their previous environment, it was like hell had become heaven. People grew increasingly excited and repeatedly thanked Long Chen. They even gave Long Chen the greatest area for him to rest. Long Chen didn't reject them. In any case, there was plenty of space. He then took out a tent for himself, Bai Feng, and Bai Ru. Although he had scared off the other side, he still warned the two of them not to leave his sight. At the very least, they couldn't leave the low level. In any case, it would be best to avoid any accidents. Long Chen didn't trust the Soaring Dragon Company. After all, not every company was like the Huayun Trading Company. They at least had a bottom line. The only reason that the Soaring Dragon Company had conceded this time was because they saw that Long Chen wasn't easy to provoke. That was why they were willing to pay the price of killing a half-step world king to placate his anger. Long Chen's guess was that this group was waiting until they reached the violet flame heaven. They would probably have a heaven-compassing trap set up there for Long Chen. But he wasn't afraid. The next few days passed very calmly. The materials for the Violet Tower pills were all used up, so Long Chen could only refine Divine Lord pills. The Divine Lord realm referred to 4 peaks merging into one, turning you into the Lord of the land between the heavens. Meanwhile, the 4 peaks merging into one referred to 4 kinds of power that were pushed to the limit and then twisted into one solid rope. They could no longer be split again. After that, they would support each other for eternity. Once all your power merged together, you would have the power to lord over the land. It could be said that the Divine Lord realm was a milestone realm in the immortal world. Only those who had set foot into the Divine Lord realm were qualified to roam the immortal world. At the same time, this Divine Lord realm was a bit similar to the mortal world's bone-forging realm in the sense that the amount of medicinal pills used in this realm was appalling. When the 4 peaks merged and twisted together, their power grew crazily. It was just like a person might only have limited power with one finger, but when all 5 fingers worked together to form a fist, they could unleash even greater power. Other people had 4 kinds of power merging together within, but Long Chen had countless energies inside him. Hence, Long Chen required many times more pills than normal cultivators. It could only be described as an ocean's worth. Fortunately, there were several pill formulas for the Divine Lord pill, and 3 of them were refined with only spiritual plants. As Long Chen had long since planted those ingredients in large numbers, it wasn't difficult for him to start refining this pill. However, after advancing to the Divine Lord realm, he had yet to fully accustom himself to his newfound power. If he didn't first train his physical body and only pursued higher realms, it would cause his foundation to grow unsteady. Thus, even after all this time, Long Chen hadn't even reached the first heaven stage. We are calm. Find us on Google. He found that his essence, qi, spirit, muscles, bones, blood, and flesh were all slowly growing. He had to wait until they were still before he could consume Divine Lord pills. However, while he couldn't consume the pills, he could first refine them. Thus, the Demon Moon Furnace and the Moon and Star Refining Furnace were working day and night. Long Chen himself didn't need to do anything. Occasionally, he would chat a bit with Bai Fang and Bai Rue, answering their questions about cultivation. As a result, the entire ship's people came to listen to him. Long Chen was a heaven master of the academy. Thus, any areas that these people didn't understand, he could easily answer. His profound learning made others prostrate themselves before him. They finally understood why Long Chen could be so terrifying at such a young age. Occasionally, he would discuss the Tao with everyone, but the majority of his time, he liked to sit on the deck and listen to the wind blowing, watch the sun rise and the sun set, watch as the river of stars flows above him. The starry sky in particular drew him in. He felt hidden within the darkness. Others felt fear of the dark. But for some reason, Long Chen was starting to like the feeling of being in the dark. The ship calmly traveled for a month. On this night, heaven-shaking roars rang out and huge ripples appeared on the sea. The ship was actually thrown into the air. As a result, the people on the ship cried out in shock. In the night sky, they saw countless lantern-like eyes surrounding the boat from all directions. "What is that?" cried Bai Fang in terror. "Deep-sea fiend devils." As soon as these monsters appeared, Long Chen sensed their auras. It was a very familiar feeling. That immortal king scammer had said that there was a section of the Devil's Sea to cross at the center. It seemed that they had reached that point. After they crossed the Devil's Sea, they would officially enter the realm of the violet flame heaven. Suddenly, the flying boat quivered. Countless giant black things crawled up the ship, terrifying people. Chapter 3483. Long Chen stared at the ferocious sea demons and found that these sea demons had some differences compared to the sea demons he had encountered before. Within the same realm, they were definitely stronger than the sea demons he had encountered in the 7th Branch Academy. They had runes flickering over their bodies and were capable of unleashing various divine abilities. The sea demons back then mostly used their bodies to fight. But these sea demons could use special attacks. Water arrows and divine light mixed, whistling toward the boat. Their power could not be underestimated. Furthermore, the runes on the sea demons' bodies would flash, growing dark and then bright, which surprised Long Chen. Support us at calm. They're capable of absorbing the energy of heaven and earth to fight? It had to be known that the sea demons he had encountered would need to go back to the deep sea to replenish their energy once they had used up the energy in their bodies. However, these sea demons actually knew how to absorb the energy of heaven and earth. That was somewhat similar to human cultivators. It seemed that the sea demons in different domains had different cultivation styles. Within the boat, everyone was hiding in fear. Only Long Chen was standing at the front, staring calmly at those sea demons. When they got closer, they unleashed huge waves as they charged at the boat. Their gazes were cold and emotionless. They were eyeing the people on the boat like sharks that had smelled blood. Many sea demons ate humans, not due to the little bit of flesh on their bodies. It was for their essence, qi, and spirits. If demonic cores were treasures to the human race, then the human race's people were like spirit pills to demonic beasts. Consuming humans would bring great benefits to them. The stronger the person that they consumed, the more beneficial it was. The experts could not see the end of these sea demons within the dark night. In the sky, in the water, all they saw were sea demons. They roared as they charged at the boat. Boom! Countless runes lit up on the boat, making it blaze as brightly as the sun. It illuminated the night sky. In that instant, everyone despaired, as the light revealed sea demons as far as the eye could see. The entire space around them was packed. Brazen sea demons, you dare to block the boat of my soaring dragon company? Be slaughtered! An ancient voice snorted coldly. The boat shuddered and countless rays of sword light shot out, piercing through the sea demons. Following that, brown runes appeared on their bodies. It was like they were covered in dust. After being pierced, those sea demons were quickly killed. Earth subdues water. The Soaring Dragon Company has plenty of experience against them. Long Chen didn't have deep knowledge of formations, but he could see that the boat's attacks contained earth element runes. As for these sea demons, 99% had water attributes. So, with the elemental suppression, these runes were no different than poison to them. After that, the slain demonic beasts' cores were affected by some kind of power and flew out of the corpses, landing within the boat. This boat actually had a hunting ability. Other than gathering fees for carrying people, they could also conveniently do some hunting, making more money. Long Chen saw that while these sea demons were numerous, there were no true experts amongst them. A few of the strongest ones were only half-step world kings. They couldn't threaten the boat. At this point in time, immortal king corpses were no longer very useful to Long Chen. His primal chaos space was already packed with demonic beast corpses of this level or more. That was the result of the last battle. The majority were half-step world king existences. Just half a month ago, the Wood Foundation divine trees had reached their limit. As for the Devil Eye water lilies, he was raising 10,000 of them, and they had all reached the 3rd tier. Not only did they give him the seeds that he needed, but their life energy also couldn't be underestimated. These 10,000 Devil Eye water lilies gave him just as much life energy as half of the Wood Foundation divine trees. Long Chen had a stockpile of corpses just in case he ended up exhausting a huge amount of life energy in battle. Then these corpses could save his life. Long Chen was originally hoping to gather some corpses when the sea demons appeared. After all, the boat was discarding the corpses after taking the demonic cores. However, these sea demons were too low level. They were useless to the current Long Chen. After advancing to the Divine Lord realm, the primal chaos space had once more grown, and so had his appetite. The life energy of an immortal king corpse was nothing to him now. Thus, Long Chen wasn't interested in these corpses. Seeing that the Soaring Dragon Company's people were very calm despite the barrage of sea demons, everyone gradually relaxed. They came forward and also began to examine the sea demons. After all, this was the Devil Sea, and the sea demons here possessed a fierce devil chi. Just getting close to them could count as tempering their wills. Now, the deck was packed with people. Long Chen had been watching for a while and didn't see any powerful sea demons appear. Feeling bored, he retreated to rest. On the other hand, Bai Feng and Bai Rui knew that this was a rare opportunity, so they continued to closely examine the sea demons on the deck. Long Chen was originally going to tell them to stay beside him, but after thinking about it, it wasn't as if he could look after them for a lifetime. They also needed to get stronger. The flying boat continued moving and killing for 3 days. The killing was done entirely by the boat's formation. They forcibly slaughtered a path through the sea demons. Although it cost a great deal, the gains were immense as well. Long Chen estimated that the Soaring Dragon Company had made an astonishing sum in these 3 days. Furthermore, they were businessmen and they knew how to use money properly. They would turn this money into even more money. On the 3rd day, Long Chen noticed that Bai Feng's expression was strange. He asked, "What is it?" "Nothing. I just feel a bit lost. These sea demons are already so terrifying. Once we reach the violet flame heaven, the competition will probably be even fiercer than before." Bai Feng forced out a slight smile with a complicated expression. "There's no need to be so pessimistic. There are good people and bad people. The important thing is how to differentiate them. Once we get to the violet flame heaven, I'll see if I can use some connections to get you a place to rest, said Long Chen with a smile. Long Chen was planning on leaving this brother and sister to the Huayun Trading Company. Both of them were kind-hearted, and he trusted that the Huayun Trading Company wouldn't reject them. Bai Feng hastily thanked him. However, Long Chen still felt like there was something strange in Bai Feng's gaze. But he didn't ask. 3 days later, the water became pitch black. Most importantly, it was no longer still. Long Chen could feel it slowly moving as if there was a black pond flowing within the sea, separating two worlds. Suddenly, Long Chen felt a sense of danger. He hastily walked out of the hold of the boat and concentrated his gaze. He then saw a shocking sight. Far in the distance, there was a giant whirlpool that was like a gaping maw devouring the world. This giant boat was as tiny as a speck of sand compared to it. Upon seeing that giant whirlpool, Long Chen felt a chill. An intense sensation of danger welled up within him. Long Chen was about to warn the Soaring Dragon Company's people about that whirlpool when he suddenly saw a pair of eyes staring at him. That was the elder of the boat. He currently had a sinister smile on his face. Not good. Long Chen was startled. Suddenly, the middle and low levels runes lit up. Long Chen was involuntarily transported out. Furthermore, the direction he was transported out to was the heart of that whirlpool. Chapter 3484. The instant Long Chen was sent out, he saw Bai Feng and Bai Rui. At some point, they had appeared beside that elder. At that moment, Long Chen felt a sharp pain inside. His first thought was that they had sold him out. However, he quickly noticed that he was wrong. Their shocked expressions showed that they had no idea what was going on. Boom. The center of the whirlpool had a terrifying force inside of it. Anyone who was sucked inside would be instantly crushed. Hence, Long Chen didn't hesitate. He slashed his saber and space exploded. He interrupted his spatial transportation midway. But the other experts were instantly sent to the core of the whirlpool. They were horrified, but they couldn't even scream. That was because they couldn't even move a muscle. Following that, an invisible power tore apart their bodies. They were sucked inside silently, as if some invisible mouth simply devoured them. There were millions of cultivators in the low and middle levels. Other than Long Chen, they were all gone now. As for where Long Chen had ended up, he was not too far from the core of the whirlpool. It had a terrifying suction force that was dragging him toward it. What are you doing? Didn't you say that if I gave you the treasure, you would let off Big Brother Long Chen? How can the Grand Soaring Dragon Company lie to and cheat people? Bai Feng roared with outrage. The elder clapped him on the back of his head, instantly knocking him unconscious. Seeing this, Bai Rui screamed and supported her big brother, only to be kicked and lose consciousness as well. Long Chen instantly understood. It was no wonder that he had felt Bai Feng's expression to be a bit odd. So he had given his treasure to the Soaring Dragon Company. Bai Feng had been deceived. Soaring Dragon Company, you are courting death. Long Chen clenched his teeth so hard that they creaked. This Soaring Dragon Company was absolutely despicable. Long Chen resisted the powerful suction force and began to walk out. Truly amazing. Even the fiend devil eye that a divine venerate would be somewhat afraid of is being resisted by you. You truly have some ability. However, you shouldn't have provoked my Soaring Dragon Company. Die in peace. In your next life, remember to pay attention to who you can offend and who you can't. Sneered the elder. After that, the ship lit up and a giant ray of divine light shot toward Long Chen. The immense force caused the void to rumble and unleashed huge waves on the sea. Boom. Long Chen was enraged and unleashed split the heavens, blasting apart that attack. But due to the force, he was knocked back several steps. In just that short distance, the suction force grew even more terrifying. Amazing! You can even block such an attack. Even I cannot do such a thing, but you are able to do so at such a young age. It seems that my decision was correct. If we were to fight you directly, we wouldn't be a match for you. Such a shame. In the end, you will still die. That elder shook his head and waved his hand once more. The ship attacked again. Boom. Long Chen was forced back once more, his chi flipping inside of him. The most enraging thing was that every step back he took caused the suction force to crazily grow. Before this, he was capable of walking out of it. But now, it was difficult to even keep himself steady. Big brother Long Chen, we've let you down. If there is another life, we promise we will repay your favor. They conned my Bai family's priceless treasure out, but they don't know how to activate it, so it's useless for them. Now, I will transmit the activation method to you. You must help avenge us. At some point, Bai Fong had awoken, holding his little sister. Blue flames then wrapped around his body. His expression was determined. Don't. Long Chen was horrified. Bai Fong was actually going to transform into the Tao together with his little sister. He had ignited his and Bai Rui's spiritual flames. This signified that not even a god could save him. Stop! The elder also cried out and reached toward them. But the two of them instantly turned to dust. Following that, some information appeared in Long Chen's mind. Bai Fong had used his and his sister's spiritual flames to transmit information to Long Chen. They vanished from this world due to this. When this information entered his mind, he learned that when the ship was attacked by the sea demons, the elders stealthily told Bai Fong that for them to kill Long Chen was as easy as turning a hand. They only wanted Bai Fong's treasure. Moreover, Bai Fong was truly too pure. If it was his own life, perhaps he wouldn't even care about this threat. But thinking of how such a heroic figure like Long Chen would be killed because of him, he felt like even 10,000 deaths wouldn't make up for his sin. Thus, he agreed, giving the treasure to the elder in exchange for letting off Long Chen, as well as the two of them. However, he hadn't expected that just after he gave them the treasure, the Soaring Dragon Company would renege on their deal. In that instant, all of Bai Fong's hopes turned to dust. He was nothing more than a tiny figure. He thought that an existence as grand as the Soaring Dragon Company would definitely keep their promises. But he was once more made a fool out of by reality. He knew that when the Soaring Dragon Company realized they couldn't activate that treasure, they would definitely torture the two of them. Then they would be living a life worse than death. With his hope extinguished, the dejected Bai Fong directly killed himself along with his little sister, leaving this world full of regrets, this world that had let them feel the warmth but also extreme coldness. Soaring Dragon Company, you butchers! Long Chen raised his head and roared. As his killing intent exploded, he was like a bloodthirsty devil king. Go kill yourself. The elder was also enraged and activated the formation repeatedly, sending one attack after another at Long Chen. Despite going all out, Long Chen was still sucked into the whirlpool. Seeing that Long Chen was gone, the elder darkly gave orders. He hadn't expected Bai Fong to actually have a backup. Now that he was dead, this priceless treasure couldn't be activated. They would have to think of something. The ship slowly left, vanishing within the night. As for the giant whirlpool, it continued to spin just as it had for all this time. Long Chen was sucked into the whirlpool. Now, his fury was blazing. He resisted the whirlpool with all his power, but it was too strong. His body creaked. He was actually in danger of being crushed. This whirlpool seemed to be the spot where two worlds were clashing. It could crush anything, and Long Chen was left bloody. Soaring Dragon Company, just wait for me to get out of here. I'll slaughter all of you, roared Long Chen. Just then, countless tentacles stretched out of the whirlpool. However, just as they were about to get close to Long Chen, a startled cry rang out. The Ghost Sovereign's mark? What a pity! This top-grade flesh and blood can only be looked at but not eaten. Just as Long Chen thought that he was about to die, a force sent him flying out of the whirlpool. Once he was out, he just happened to see the last light of the ship. Without thinking about it, he flew off in that direction. A quick look at. Calm will leave you more fulfilled. Fuck, Boss Long San will kill all of you. Long Chen clenched his teeth, his eyes blazing with killing intent. Chapter 3485 Long Chen chased down the ship with all his rage. However, the flow of space was chaotic here and so were the laws of the world. Because of these, Long Chen's speed was affected. He could only watch as the ship flowed further and further away until it vanished. Long Chen clenched his teeth furiously. He then smashed his fist on the surface of the sea, causing an explosion of water. Flames of fury burned inside him. If he had properly looked after Bai Feng and Bai Rui, the two of them wouldn't have died. He was careless, thinking that because no one recognized him here, he could relax his tense nerves. He hadn't expected this soaring dragon company, which was said to be on the same level as the Huayan Trading Company, would be so shamelessly sinister. Long Chen then took a deep breath. Getting angry now was meaningless. He looked back at the whirlpool in the distance and calmed down. Just now, that voice wasn't a real voice. It was more like the expression of a feeling. Long Chen could hear the other side's meaning. That existence had noticed his ghost sovereign mark and thus decided not to absorb his essence blood. It even sent him out. Could it be that the people on the middle and low levels are sacrifices that the Soaring Dragon Company is giving it? Is it afraid of the Ghost Sovereign? Or does it have some relationship with the Ghost Sovereign? Thus it decided to let me off? Long Chen sank into thought. There was a terrifying existence at the bottom of the whirlpool. Compared to its cultivation base, he was like a speck of dust. The Fiend Devil Eye. Long Chen had also heard of it before. Legend had it that it was a gate to the Fiend Devil world. There were terrifying Fiend Devils at the bottom. However, such a thing only existed in legend as no one had seen it. Furthermore, the Academy's books had no mention of such things, so Long Chen had always felt them to be nothing more than a story. Soaring Dragon Company. Thinking of this group of despicable little people, Long Chen's anger, which he had just calmed down, rose once more. Long Chen had promised to protect that brother and sister. Although he had told them not to leave him, this failure still stemmed from his carelessness. That was the only way that the Soaring Dragon Company had managed to deceive Bai Feng. He had thought that after ending up so far from the heavenly swell domain, he would have some temporary peace. But the cultivation world was full of dirty mud that dragged people down into its depths. Moreover, there were countless vipers and crocodiles hiding in that mud. One slip-up and your boat would capsize. Suddenly, he heard the sound of a strange wind. It was like a sobbing sound, and it grew closer and closer. As it sounded like ghouls crying, it gave others chills. It's the aura of a ghost ship. Long Chen was surprised. Sensing the direction, he rushed off toward that sound. Half a month later, the Soaring Dragon Company's ship slowly approached the dock. There was an endless stream of people coming and going on the dock. The entire dock was tens of thousands of miles long, and all of it was for the Soaring Dragon Company's business. This place was the Violet Flame Heaven, and it had a particularly bright blue sky. Also, the spiritual qi was abundant, and the heavenly daos were auspicious. It was suitable for cultivation of all life forms. The Violet Flame Heaven was a cultivation world that countless experts dreamed of reaching. It was one of the 3 best-preserved heavens from after that ancient battle. At this moment, tens of thousands of ships were coming and going on the dock. They were mostly merchant ships and hunting ships. This place was one of the Soaring Dragon Company's strongholds in the Violet Flame Heaven, and it was bustling. They almost monopolized all the water transport in this area. The ship that Long Chen had originally been on slowly got closer to the dock. However, no one came off nor were there any cheers. It was silent. Following that, experts of the Soaring Dragon Company came out one after another, carrying cases off of the ship. Senior Chi Hong, it's been an arduous journey. These people weren't sacrificed? A world king greeted them, but he was a bit surprised to see these cases. That lead elder on the ship was called Chi Hong. Chi Hong said, "These people have good aptitudes. It would be a shame to sacrifice them to the Fiend Devil Eye. Place slave marks on them and toss them into the primordial desolate world to extract ores." Senior Chi Hong, why is your expression like that? Did you run into some difficulty? Asked that world king curiously. A quick look at Tinyurl. com/2p9mv8w will leave you more fulfilled. Don't bring it up again. When killing pigs, we ended up encountering a wild boar. It was quite fierce and almost caused the ship to flip over. I had to sacrifice 2 people of the Shur clan before I settled it and tossed it into the Fiend Devil Eye to be killed. said Qi Hong, clenching his teeth irritably. No way. Of the 9 heaven stages of World King, only those in the first heaven stage can pass through the wall between heavens harm-free. Were 3 first heaven stage World Kings unable to suppress him? Asked that World King in amazement. I'm not talking about it. It's all in the past. Is Senior Yushu present? I have an important thing to report to him, said Qi Hong. Qi Hong, get the hell out. Just then, a heaven-shaking furious roar rang out and killing intent filled the land. This roar that sounded like it came from a celestial devil echoed throughout the entire dock over and over again. The originally sunny sky instantly darkened. As black clouds covered the sky, endless death chi filled the world. Everyone was shocked. As for Qi Hong, his hair stood on end. He recognized Long Chen's voice. He hastily looked into the distance, only to see a black ship far in the distance where the water met the sky. As the ship appeared, the entire world changed color, becoming dark and deathly. This dock belonged to the Soaring Dragon Company, but over 90% of the people on it belonged to other powers. They were renting the dock of the Soaring Dragon Company to come and go, and they had paid quite the yearly fee to them. On the other hand, the Soaring Dragon Company's own ships constituted only a very small portion of the ships. They were only in charge of maintaining order. The millions of experts carrying out their business were dumbfounded when they saw the world change color. When looking into the distance, their eyes almost popped out. Ghost ship. Seeing a rotting ship emitting endless black chi that infected the world, they felt like they were seeing a ship of death from hell. On top of the ship was a black-robed man erupting with killing intent. The black chi of the ghost ship was merely a bit of decoration compared to his killing intent, making him appear like a devil god who had come to reap lives. It's him! Quick! Activate the grand defensive formation immediately! Shouted Qi Hong in terror. Who is he? Shouted the other World King. He is that one I was talking about. Didn't you say that he was already dead? How should I know? I clearly tossed him into the fiend devil eye. Who knows how he got back out? Qi Hong was filled with terror and panic. Long Chen had come back for retribution. What is going on? How can a person control a ghost ship? What kind of calamity did you provoke? That World King grew increasingly horrified. Even his tone was no longer polite. Ghost ships were unlucky existences, and even World Kings were afraid of them. Now, a person was actually in control of a ghost ship and steering it right toward them. This surpassed the scope of everyone's understanding. It was something that didn't even exist in legend. Everyone unrelated to this matter should get out of the way now. Boss Long San is going to slaughter everyone remaining. Long Chen roared. He then spotted Qi Hong from a great distance. Upon thinking of Bai Feng and Bai Rui who had died miserable deaths, his eyes almost spat out flames. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.